General Bryce here just needs to confirm the state of your health and welfare.
I am fine, General Bryce. How are you?
I'm well, soldier.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of Explaining Warhammer to My Girlfriend. My name is Ava, and joining me, as always, is my lovely significant other, Kari. Welcome. I'm flubbing all my words today.
We survived the winter, guys.
We survived the winter.
We literally nearly didn't.
It's our first recording of the new year. Can you tell? Can you tell how out of practice we are? Hooray!
Guys.
So we took a bit of a holiday.
Which was meant to be a working holiday.
Yeah, and then I got incredibly sick.
Yeah.
Kari was sick.
I was
sick.
And
then she was like, I'm getting better. And then I got there, and Kari and Alex, and we were like, oh, yay. And then Kari and I got horribly sick. I must have caught something on the plane.
It was
so
horrible.
That just kind of...
We were sick
and then
for
it was
weeks.
Christmas, and we visited family.
That was nice. We went over, visited my family. Granny met Ava, asked who the hell they were, and why they were here.
Kari told Granny, like, oh yeah, Ava's my other partner. And Granny looked at Kari, looked at me, looked back to Kari and went, you can't be serious.
Listen.
Granny's incredibly British, by the way. You can't be serious.
She's from a different time. She remembers the Blitz, okay?
Oh, no, it was great. And this is all just to say...
Up.
This is all to say, hey gang, it's been a minute. Sorry for all the wait. We're gonna try to make content much better, much faster this time around. This year, we're planning big things. We want more videos to come out, and we hope that, you guys will enjoy.
Yeah.
Thanks for being so patient, gang.
Yeah, we're gonna try to make it worth it.
So we're starting off the year on a good note, talking about
the nice
Vulkan.
Guys.
Vulkan, primarch of the Salamanders.
It's true.
My love. What do you know about Vulkan?
I know a couple things about Vulkan. Vulkan was my first Primarch in so much as you had found like a test online that was like, what faction would you be in?
Yeah.
And then I did the
chapter
test,
would you be? And
it said I was a salamander. And you said that makes a lot of sense. And I said, so who's my Primarch? And you said Vulkan. And I said, why? What are they like known for? And
they
you
are
said,
green.
They're nice.
They are big. They are green, and they love burning things.
Yeah,
it's their favorite activity.
Very scaly armor.
They like scale armor. They have a very strong dragon or salamander motif. And they have dark charcoal skin with glowing red eyes.
Yeah. And I always thought it would be cool to try to if I ever wanted to paint these guys. I thought it'd be cool to try to incorporate some of Kita's skin.
Oh, yeah, as like a cape or something. That'd be so cool.
Let's see if I could make something like that work. Because also, that's kind of the nice thing about having, a snake is that you do get these, little keepsakes from them.
Alex and I have talked a lot about how you've always... We've talked about Warhammer in our free time. Because, Alex and I are big fans of it. You're a fan of it. We're all just talking about it. And Vulkan has come up quite a bit.
Yeah.
We've often talked about how you will like Vulkan.
Yes. Other than that one thing. I always get a warning of there's one, it'll be fine.
Every single person is like, I can't wait to talk about Vulkan and the child incident.
Yeah, everybody is like, man, Kari's gonna... I'm always like, I hear Vulkan's great. And they're like, he murdered the child. And I'm like, what?
We'll talk about that. So
it feels like it's going to be, I don't know how to say this without the spoiling, a turning moment for Guts, but for Vulkan.
Oh, do you mean when?
I mean, in the castle.
Yep.
Up the top of the stairs.
Yep. Suddenly the door opens and yep. So interesting observation. We'll talk more about that when that occurs. Couple other things. We've mentioned that Vulkan is a perpetual.
He is a perpetual. I know that at one point he seemingly would go bye-bye were he anyone else, but it's like he not bye-bye actually.
So,
but also he does it in the coolest way ever. So
about that.
Yeah.
Perpetuals all...
They have a spawn point.
Well, hold on. No.
Yeah.
Perpetuals all are... They can be humans. They can be whatever. Perpetuals all seem to have one special thing. They've got one ultimate limit break that they can use at whatever point they need. Vulkan's is a respawn timer.
Okay.
he could get completely obliterated down to the atom and he'll just come back.
Like Deadpool style.
Yeah, he'll just manifest again and be like, what up? It me.
So, okay, wait. Is it in the style of like magically he regrows like Deadpool
It depends
where
how
he
he
has to
went
like
out.
regrow his like gross child feet? Or
So Vulcan with little baby legs. He's this is extra funny because he's the biggest Primarch.
Oh no. Or
well,
wait.
he's one of the biggest.
Yeah, I've seen the like height charts. Or
Yeah.
is it like the Iron Giant where
Where-
there's like
no.
and it all like slowly creeps back? These little like flesh
Oh
blobs
no.
going around.
I think it depends how he went out, because sometimes he just kind of gets like got. And what I mean by that is he's like, a spear goes through his chest and my heart.
Yeah.
And he goes
The one
out.
I know about, it sounds like it would be pretty. He gets
Is the one
immolated.
you're thinking? Okay, so
Is that the correct term?
he
If you fall
basically
into a volcano. that immolation?
So Vulkan in current day 40k we're jumping around a
Yeah.
little bit. We'll get
Yeah,
into his
sorry.
backstory in just a second. I'm just kind of setting the stage to talk about what you know about Vulkan. Vulkan in current day 40k is not considered dead. He's considered missing.
Right.
We don't know where he is, and we don't know if he's like currently respawning or he's hiding somewhere.
Right.
His sons are collecting a bunch of artifacts, and they're hoping that if they collect all of them, that he'll show up again. But that's like pure
the Dragon
like,
Balls or like Osiris?
Yes, like the Dragon Balls.
Fair enough.
They think the Dragon Balls will bring back Vulcan.
That would work with the aesthetic. Dragon Ball Dragon Ball themed salamanders would be rad if they're all after what's his name?
Shenron.
Shenron.
That would be cool.
That'd be
that
so
would be
cool,
really
guys.
cool. That would be really cool. It's the same exact
Copyright.
color palette. Copyright
No
Carrie Lynn
steal.
Davies.
Wait, that's cool. Okay.
Shenron Salamanders. Okay. I see the vision. They all got the stars to like signify the squad or the rank or something. She's pogging.
Wait.
Oh no, it's happening.
I'm gonna write this down. My notes so far
You-
say Vulcan, and now it's gonna say
Imagine like an orc was coming and like a bunch of orcs are just like, they're
It's just
doing their thing,
Piccolo.
they're crumping. No, they're doing their thing, they're crumping, and then they just hear in the distance, dragon, rock the dragon.
no,
Dragon Ball.
no, it's the Canadian one.
No, that one sucks.
No, it doesn't. It's so good. Dragon Ball.
No,
Dragon Ball Z.
nothing's gonna top
Dragon Ball Z.
Alternatively-
it hurts to sing. It has to hurt.
Alternatively, they're coming over the hill. Cha-la, da-da-da. I can't remember it. I like that one too. Anyway, hey, yo, Vulcan. Vulcan's cool. I think you're gonna like Vulcan. Let's put a pin in that for later. We're gonna see if my prediction is correct. If everybody's been hyping up Vulcan, because the worst thing that could happen, Carrie, is we
Right.
get to the end of this and you go, I hate him.
No, I'm supposed
That would
to like
suck.
this one.
Yeah.
Are you
You've had a lot of
expecting
good
me to like this
experience.
guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like you're gonna like him. You've had a lot of good experiences with salamanders in the media that we've seen. We watched
Yes.
the Hell's Reach animation, and when the salamanders show up to talk to Grimaldus, you were like, oh, I like them. And then we watched Pariah Nexus, and then the episode of The Ties where he shows up, and you really, really, really like Sakan.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Yeah, I particularly like the scene where he's talking to the kids.
I liked how he talked to the kids and just explained things, and it made it
You
less
have
scary.
2 hearts and 3 lungs.
I'm
Ah.
dying anyway.
I've died. Please help me. Oh man. No, I think this episode's gonna be really fun. So hey,
Hi.
off in the distant galaxy we go. Our focus is on a little world called Nocturne.
Oh no.
Nocturne is a death world.
Oh no.
It is a planet of fire and volcanoes and earthquakes, and has a time of year just called the time of trial, where all of these things are just going off all the time. Buildings,
I thought you were going to say a time of year called time of year.
the time of year. So yeah, the planet's just constant. It's just a big molten rock. Tectonic plates are always shifting. The volcanoes are always going off. Mordor. Think of Mordor.
It's everybody's having a bad time.
Everybody's having a bad time. There's giant monsters everywhere.
There are men weeping in each other's arms about the meaning of life.
There are eagles.
I'm crying on the couch
I'm
with my
crying.
glass of wine and
I'm a little goblino guy. Popcorn. I love my little ring. I'm having great time. I'm having a bath.
Oh.
In some lava.
Immolation.
Ooh. The most famous beast of Nocturne is, can you guess what it is? What do you think the most popular beast on this planet is going to be? It's a big salamander.
Oh.
Big salamander, they breathe fire.
Oh, talented.
Yeah. It's a callback. We're going to call back to this in a bit. The people of Nocturne are often nomadic because, earthquakes, not really great for structures. However, there are certain places on the planet where the earthquakes aren't really that bad and they're far away enough from volcanoes that the smoke really doesn't affect them and, there's no lava, obviously, and the animals stay far enough away.
There are habitable areas.
More habitable areas that are called the 7 sanctuary cities. So, mostly nomadic tribes, but you got these 7 cities across the planet.
7 cities. And they're spread out? Would you have to travel across dangerous places, or are they kind of clustered?
I would imagine getting from one sanctuary city to another would be an ordeal, a journey.
Okay.
It would be a problem, probably.
Yeah.
But that's our stage. The stage is set. Are you ready for the story?
Yeah. 7 cities.
The 7 sanctuary cities.
Sanctuary.
Yes.
My sanctuary. Only normally.
Can we not? Fuck it. You know what? I don't want a Space Marine 3. I want the next Kingdom Hearts game to be Titus. But it's just...
Wait.
He's hanging out with Donald and Goofy. We have to uphold the Codex Astarte.
Okay, no, that is literally what Berserk feels like.
Guts is a Space Marine
Guts
and he's
is,
hanging out with
to just deal with this bitch who he's responsible for, but also cares about enough that he's doing this. And then there's the fairies that are arguing, and the one kid who's decided he's now a dependent.
Yeah.
We had Syphilis Chan for a little bit.
You can't just call her that.
I mean, that's her whole character.
You can't just call somebody that.
And now we've got
Syphilis Chan.
Haircut and
this is my favorite character, Gonorrhea-kun.
I mean, to her, she was describing the symptoms of syphilis.
Yes,
I don't know
what,
and I don't remember her name. This is all I've got.
Carrie,
Cult
I'm not
lady
laughing
who pushes
at your
a guy
name.
off a cliff.
No, Carrie, I'm not laughing at your name that you've given to this character. It's the fact that I also don't remember her name.
And you know exactly who I was talking about. I could call her the girl in the barrel.
Oh, shit. Okay, the stage is set. We're on Nocturne. Nocturne, volcano planet, it sucks. Once upon a time, during the time of trial, as volcanoes erupted and the earth shook, one brilliantly blazing comet, shining through the dark clouds of Nocturne, crashed into the black crust of the planet. Nabel, a blacksmith from a tiny village community, left his home to investigate the strange comet and found a baby boy. Skin as dark as obsidian and eyes like fire. Nabel took this child to raise him as his own, knowing that this child was special. He named him after the mythical king of the salamanders, Vulkan.
So he shows up and he's got dark skin.
Yes.
Do the people of the planet already also have dark skin?
Space Marines have a bunch of crazy organs inside of them, and the primarchs are just preloaded with them.
Yeah.
The radiation on Nocturne combined with one of the organs inside of a Space Marine causes their skin to become obsidian.
Right.
And
so
their
the
eyes
regular
become
people
red.
who are native to Nocturne, they don't look like that.
I would assume not.
It's interesting to me because I feel like I've heard people talk about the phenotypes of the, I almost called them princes, the primarchs.
They're basically princes. So.
Yeah, as resulting from the environments in which they grew up. But it sounds to me like he was already that way. He was already basically designed to
I think just the radiation just kicked in real fast.
That could also be an explanation, but I also wonder, like, if a random space marine goes to this planet, do they turn black? Like, I'm just trying to understand.
Typically, when a space marine of the Salamanders, they only recruit from their homeworlds, as you know. If their homeworld is still around. When they get the space magines inside of them, they get all the organs and stuff, they sort of, over time, get the skin and the red eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not from Nocturne, so like a successor chapter of the Salamanders, such as the Black Dragons, their skin color would probably be different.
I just realized the answer to my question is in the planet's name.
Nocturne.
Turn dark.
Yeah.
I guess I was just curious, like, what percentage of the planet is of Space Marine and of Native?
Depends on the tithe.
Yeah.
All salamanders are from Nocturne.
Yeah.
So they're all eventually going to have the red eyes and the obsidian skin.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay, it makes sense. No, my brain is just coming up with more questions. Okay, go ahead.
For the next few years, Vulkan grew to an immense size. In only 3 years, he had become the largest and strongest man in all Hesiod. His father had stopped teaching him his work because, in truth, there was nothing left to teach. Vulkan had learned all his father knew for blacksmithing as easily as breathing and even surpassed him. He created new ways to smith, previously thought impossible by the people of Nocturne, bringing about a time of prosperity and wonder. However, in the 4th year, ships came down from the dark skies, curved and sharp. Raiders. Drukhari raiders.
Oh, no.
You remember the Halloween episode we did?
Yeah.
You remember when we talked about the Drukhari and how I said, if your planet is raided by the Drukhari, you're better off just...
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Yep.
Yeah. They're like, it's a bad time. They're pirates, but like super pirates.
They're pirates and torturers. And what did I say in the Halloween? I said, like, the best part about being a fan of the Drukhari is that they are just unambiguously fucking evil.
Yeah, I compared them to Reavers in Firefly, which you don't totally understand the reference.
I don't understand the reference, but
people who are familiar with the property will,
Vulkan's father explained to him that this was common. The raiders would come, pillage, murder, abduct their children, and leave as quickly as they came. Their attacks were random and horribly violent. This angered Vulkan. The people of Hesiod began to hide as the raiders descended. All but one. In the middle of the city, Vulkan stood alone, his blacksmithing hammers resting on his shoulders. He would not move, he would not falter, and he would protect his home, his people, his family, even if it killed him. The sight of this giant standing alone against their attacker sent a wave of hope across the people in the village, and they rose to stand with him. Together, they drove back the Drukhari raiders. Vulkan killed 100 single-handedly. The people rejoiced, and the legend of Vulkan spread throughout the entire planet. The leaders of the other sanctuary cities traveled miles to meet the savior of Hesiod, and all agreed that Vulkan would become the king of their people, and they would hide from these raiders no longer. Celebrations were to be had.
Mm-hmm.
A tournament was organized that would last days and days and days. And during the festivities, a stranger arrived.
Oh my god!
Your fucking eyes rolled. You're just like, ugh.
Listen, there's a lot of patterns.
There's
a lot of echoes here.
His clothes were old and unkempt. His voice was soft and meek. So when he asked to join the competition against Vulkan, everyone laughed. No one could beat the savior of Nocturne. It was impossible. Vulkan politely smiled and agreed to the challenge. The terms were this: whomever lost the competition would forever serve the victor. Big stakes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, your eyes just...
You're gonna be my bitch.
You're gonna be my bitch for the I imagine if Vulkan won, he would be like, whatever. You know, like,
this
go
is the
live
kind
your
of
life.
vow girls make. Like when they're going into a round of like truth or dare or something.
Oh no. For the next 8 days, Vulkan and the Stranger competed in various contests of might, intellect, and craftsmanship. One of the contests was simply holding an anvil over your head for as long as possible.
Wait, this literally sounds like, what is it called? The Highland Games.
The Highland Games?
Yeah, so there's this thing every year. I have a friend who used to compete.
Highland Games.
Where it's like
a
is this
Scottish
like
log
tradition,
throwing?
And they do all these like crazy sports, but like some of them are like log throwing.
Yeah.
They're like axe cutting like a log into like certain numbers of things.
It's very much that vibe.
Yeah, it's just like really fucking manly shit.
So, every challenge ended in a draw. And then the time came for the final contest. Both would have a single day to craft a weapon and hunt down and slay the largest salamander that they could find and return with its body.
Right.
You have 1 day to do this.
Right.
Both Vulkan and the Stranger effortlessly crafted a weapon and sent out to Mount Deathfire, the tallest volcano on the planet.
It's like when you start up a new Zelda game and you're like, and there's Death Mountain. I think that's how you orient yourself for the first little bit.
Eventually, Vulkan found a large salamander and slayed it easily. Upon returning to town, the volcano shook, and the ground beneath him crumbled, causing him to hang off the edge of the cliff with one hand and the other clutching the salamander and the lava bubbling beneath him. He would not give up his prize, and so he just hung there for a few hours, just casually.
Damn.
Just when his strength was fading, and he was considering dropping the beast to save himself, the Stranger appeared. He had a salamander over his shoulders that was even larger than Vulkan's. But upon seeing him hanging, he threw the beast's body aside and grabbed onto Vulkan, helping him to his feet. During this rescue, the Stranger's prize had slipped and fallen into the lava below, but the Stranger made no comment. It was as if he didn't even notice. And when they returned, the people cheered, for Vulkan had won. But the cheering stopped when their king bent his knee to the Stranger. He thanked him for saving his life and told him that he would gladly serve any man who would value life over pride. The Stranger then cast off all illusions.
What?
And the Emperor of Mankind stood tall,
God!
a smile across his face. He then extended a hand to his son and offered to take him to the stars.
I am surprised.
I am aghast.
I cannot believe this.
How could this be?
I thought it was just a guy.
I thought it was just a meek man.
I thought
just
it
a
was
little
just
guy.
some guy in dirty clothes. So I guess Erida never taught him how to use the washing machine before she left. He's like...
MP does strike me as the type of guy to have just a mountain of laundry.
He
and
does
it's
it.
like,
Sometimes he washes it, like, if it's, like, soiled. But, like, also he never leaves the washer open, so it gets moldy.
He's too busy working on his spreadsheets.
Yeah.
He's tired. Before they left, Vulkan was, like, kind of hesitant.
Fair
he didn't
enough.
want to leave his people undefended.
This is what I was saying when we were talking about...
Ferris.
Well, and even before that, when we were talking about... Awoo!
Lehman.
Thank you.
Yes.
No,
the Emperor assured him that they would be safe because now they were under the protection of the Imperium.
Right. Yeah.
And only then was Vulkan like, yeah,
he's
okay.
Been colonized, bitch.
Vulkan only left because he was given like God's word.
Right.
That it would be fine. So here's where things get a little different because usually what would happen is MP takes his son, puts him in front of the Legion and is like, look, guys, it's your dad. And they're like, woo! That didn't happen with Vulkan. Okay. He did not go to his Legion right after he was picked up. He actually spent a couple years learning and fighting beside the Emperor as a sort of a mentor-student kind of thing. It's similar to how Horus was brought on.
Okay.
But what's interesting about this is that Vulkan didn't see the Emperor as a father. because he already
Okay.
has a dad back on
Yeah.
home. Back home, he's that's my
Oh
dad.
no. Oh
He's my
no.
dad. You're my dad. You know? What? Oh no! What?
What did you just start singing?
Oh, this is a different. This is my
He's
generation.
dad. I was thinking, oh no, is this one gonna have like,
Independent thoughts.
well, like a healthy attachment type style, and like
Perhaps.
the ability to like not form like overly dependent relationships?
It
Is he gonna be
caused.
adjusted?
Well, hold on. It caused a bit of a weird interaction between some of his brothers because they're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, have you talked to father?" And he's like, "You mean the emperor?"
It's like when you like meet somebody and they just have like really good boundaries, and you're like, holy shit, you're everything
Well,
I
we're
want to
gonna-
be, but I'm a little scared of you. Like,
You know what? We're also going to see this in Gilliman.
yeah, no,
Gilliman has a well. He had a
Gilliman's
dad,
like
but he
me,
also
'cause
has a mom.
he has his boundaries, but also he really needs to sleep in.
It's true.
And like, if you catch him when he's tired, I'm assuming it's like,
I need to find the excerpt of his mom waking him up because he slept in, and she's like, "You have like an empire to run," and he's like,
my
"5 more
mom used to
minutes,
literally
please,
wake me up
Mom."
singing in the morning.
Oh my god.
She'd be like, the sun has arrived, and now you will go about your day. And I would be like, ugh.
It causes a bit of a weird separation between Vulkan and his brothers because some of them are, as I said, like they're like, "Oh yeah, father this, father that," and he's like, "My father's on my home world. He's like a blacksmith. He's cool.
Yeah.
That's not my dad. That's like my boss.
Yeah.
Why you calling your boss dad?" So it caused like some
He almost
of his
sees it-
brothers were kind
yeah.
of like, some of his brothers were kind of jealous that he had like a parent.
I could also see not just jealousy, but like potential like animosity.
Oh,
Like, you don't
yes.
respect
Oh,
dad
yeah.
kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The 18th Legion, the Salamanders,
Yeah.
would eventually be battling 19,000 of their own versus a horde of millions of orcs. 19,000,
Oh,
couple million.
I'm not loving those odds.
Typically, salamanders would actually be behind like the main crusade that was running forward
Mm-hmm.
because they were the ones who, they love fire. So they're kind of like the cleanup crew.
I love fire. Right.
I love fire. I love war. Their defense allowed 3 planets to evacuate safely while they held the orcs at bay, but they were losing their own quickly. When all seemed lost, suddenly they were joined by their primarch. With 3,000 new salamanders behind him, new ships, new weapons crafted by Vulkan himself,
And
they
on the
fell
dawn
upon the orcs like a thunderbolt.
of the
The
fifth
defending
day.
salamanders rallied, and together they defeated the greenskins, burning through their numbers and sending them running.
He's Gandalf showing up
It's very
with
much that.
Shadowfax and the boys.
So after the battle, when the two halves of the Legion met, the surviving defenders knelt before their primarch. And Vulkan told them to rise, saying that all his sons were equals. He was no petty king needing shows of obedience. Instead, it was he who knelt in the honor of the lives that they had saved and the price that they had paid. He made a pact with his legion then and there that they would fight for him and he would fight for them in turn. And thus, the salamanders were reunited with their primarch. She's dancing. She's having a great time.
So he was standing there after everything, right? And he's got his girlfriend beside him in her really pretty green dress, and she's got this cool like crown thingy, and everybody's and then he turns to the hobbits and he's like, "You bow to no man," and then
shit.
and then the music and they look and everybody and it's wow, tears.
Vulkan is unfathomably based.
Yeah, so far
You're big on Vulkan?
So far. I mean,
He's
he's
great.
not done anything wrong yet. He's like, listen, he's not being weirdly parasocial with this guy he just met.
Uh-huh.
Which, to be fair, is not on the kids.
No.
It is on E, and E also knows he's doing this and is like creepy.
It's really easy to form a parasocial relationship when you're like, man, I wish I had a dad. And then suddenly a guy shows up and is like, I'll be your dad. And you're like, really?
I know, that's what happened to me.
Oh, no. So Vulkan so far,
No, I again,
thumbs up.
so far, thumbs up. Love that he's like thinking about other people
Mm-hmm.
and like uplifting them and like showing people. Honestly, I don't think we've really heard so far of a Primarch who on their home world yet was like cruel. Some have been a bit like aloof or but like
yeah, we haven't met any Primarch who was just like straight up like fuck everyone and everything.
yeah, generally they've all like assimilated into their society in like a positive angle.
Yeah.
Positive to neutral
Yeah.
so far. But like I feel like Vulkan is quite positive
Oh, yes.
in this example. So
And he very much cares about all life.
yeah.
As long as that life is human.
Okay. This is whenever I reach like maybe I can understand the Emperor. Never mind.
Yep. Yep.
I often run off that cliff.
Humans number one. Humans number one. So,
Like I can't even stomach animal testing. So.
yeah. So, the Salamanders.
Uh-huh.
They are the 18th Legion. They have green armor with black like shoulder pauldrons.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have gold or bronze like as trim, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just green.
Yeah.
And yellow markings.
Right.
In 40k, we would see more green with gold trim and some black here in other spots, like a knee pad maybe a black
Right.
helmet, so on and so forth. People get real creative with salamanders. Also, like lots of flame motifs on like the legs or like the chest or something. They love fire motifs. And hammers. They love hammers.
Right. Yeah.
Big
yeah.
hammer fans. And scales.
And
Yeah.
like bolts.
This is just what the armor looked like back then.
Right.
They love the bolts.
Yeah. They're like steampunk Ghost Rider,
A little
but
bit.
green.
Ah!
But make it green.
What if it was green?
But like army green. Like when I painted a salamander, I chose to go for like a little bit more of a bright green.
So in 30k, it was much more of a desaturated, like army green. In
Mhm.
40k, it is very much like a warm, almost going like the highlights of a lot of salamander is like a very yellow green.
Yeah, it
Like
gives
it's
me
much
like
brighter in 40k.
it gives me like in a woodsy witch's cottage and she has all copper like cookware,
Mm-hmm.
which is possibly the most feminine way I could have described that. But like every bitch who knows what I mean knows what I mean.
Fair.
And they're like,
Fair.
"Oh my god."
So we talked about how their gene seed mixed with the radiation on Nocturne, it causes their skin to become obsidian black with red eyes.
Mhm.
So they look like their Primarch. They kind of look scary. Like imagine
Yeah,
being
they're intimidating.
they're big, giant space marines, and when they don't have their helmets on, they just have glowing red eyes like in
Yeah.
the darkness. So to the average Imperial citizen, they're like, oh. The irony is that they are
Good.
nice.
And red eye often mean
They're
bad.
very kind.
Or mischievous.
Another unique thing about them is that they often just forge their own armor or their own gear or
Makes
enhance it.
sense.
I mean, Vulkan was a blacksmith, right? So
Mhm.
he probably teaches, or like, you know, they teach how to do blacksmithing. They're like, you should be able to take care of your own guns and your own armor.
It's in the family. It's like a
Exactly. If you're a salamander, you know how to smith. If you're a salamander,
If you were a salamander and you didn't know how to smith, people would be like, "What the fuck?"
people would be like, that guy's not a salamander, get him.
Yeah.
So, Vulkan, obviously, was one of, if not, the nicest Primarch. If you're a human. I have
mean,
to keep...
be fair, like none of them are good to not humans. So
Well, this is what I'm saying.
to even make that specification is kind of benign.
I'm just making the specification because people generalize like, oh, he's like the salamanders are so nice. And they sometimes forget that it is purely to humans.
You know that because you're talking to me and I have expressed empathy for non-human species, that I am probably going to have a caveat where other people might not.
Oh, yes. But also, I just see online people talking about salamanders. And they're like, yeah, they're like the nicest. And it's like, yes, they're the nicest if, you're not suspected of heresy. Because then a salamander might just burn you alive.
Right. It's like
no
that,
questions asked.
Yeah, it's like, you can be the least painful punch, but you're still a punch.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to emphasize is that compared to the rest of like the Imperium in general, I would want to hang out with a salamander probably.
Right.
And because of this, if you were to come out as trans in front of Vulkan, he would give you a big smile and an even bigger hug.
Aww.
Vulkan is the biggest and possibly the strongest Primarch, but it depends on some art. Like sometimes people go like, well, Magnus is the biggest, but also Magnus can like psychically enhance how big he is. He's like the Emperor. He can just kind of like appear to be larger than he is. So that one's kind of like, eh. And sometimes Ferris is described as like the strongest physically Primarch, and it gets kind of like,
it comes down to like, what are we defining strongest as?
Exactly.
Corey was strongest. Corey was stronger.
In sparring matches, Vulkan would actually hold back his punches.
Oh my god,
because he didn't want to hurt them.
He's pulling his punches. Peter.
And obviously at the beginning of the episode, we mentioned that he's a perpetual, which means that if his perpetualness allows him to, when he dies, he is on a respawn timer.
Could you give me an example of other perpetuals and what their like quirk is?
Erda.
What is her quirk?
Is a minor spoiler. Erda at one point, not only is she like incredibly smart and like can't die, and I mean like from natural causes,
whatever Erebus
in combat, she can split herself between 3 people.
Oh yeah, she
can become
she's the maid, the like.
She splits herself into 3 beings: a little girl, a strong warrior woman, and an old crone.
Yeah. She's the Fates.
Yes. The Emperor is a perpetual.
Such. Yes.
That.
He's glowing. That's like glowing. Edward in Twilight. Edward? He does glow.
Oh, God,
well,
fucking
he glitters.
God. Everything goes back to Twilight.
Everything.
We'll talk more about how his perpetual respawn stuff works more in when we talk about the actual heresy and the events that happen there, because Vulkan goes through a lot.
I think where I'm confused as to this being his quirk isn't that just how perpetuals work?
No.
So like what would happen? Cause like, okay, wait, who's the little guy that is the one that's like an orc?
Makari?
Makari. Doesn't he like do that a little bit?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay. So I thought that this was just how perpetuals work. I thought it was kind of, they just have a spawn point.
I think it used to be that, but now it's kind of more nuanced in that it's just you have a special magic thing about you.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. It also, I need to stress this, it very much depends on the author. So all that's important is that Vulkan can die and respawn.
Yeah.
That's the important takeaway here. Also, characterization of Vulkan, his entire body is covered in brands.
Oh no.
So his skin is like ink black. It's obsidian black, so you can't like tattoo it. So he just has his sons, whenever he does an awesome deed, he'll just fucking like make a symbol and then they'll like brand it onto his skin. So his like body is tattooed with these scars that like tell his deeds. It's fucking metal. It's so awesome.
I read about cases like this when I was studying therapy.
He doesn't really feel it.
That's not good. No,
he doesn't feel it. He's fine.
Like in a fantasy book about superheroes, it's like, holy crap, that's metal. But like if your friend told you they were doing that, like go like call
seek help.
Help.
Seek help now.
That they need to talk to a doctor yesterday, kind of thing.
Yes.
But
it's
okay.
So
kind of like Maui. how Maui has all of his stories.
Yeah, all the
and
tattoos
stuff.
talking about like all of his great deeds.
And
But instead of tattoos, it's just scars.
yeah, there's
That's
a book
so cool.
that I love, a book series that I love, that I kind of just fell out of because I was waiting for a book and I need to get back into it. But it was like my favorite book series for a while. It was called Throne of Glass. But
Okay.
in it, there's a character that's immortal. He's like an elf. And it in this particular example, it's pretty similar to like Lord of the Rings elves, where they're like immortal unless they get killed.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like the warrior.
You're
like, he's not-
immortal, not invincible.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but like because they're immortal, their bodies are very important to them. Like if you like lose a finger, you've now lost that finger for eternity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like damage or like permanent marks or something are a very serious thing. And this particular guy, he's like like a general or something. And so one of his like traits is that like every soldier he loses, he tattoos them on his body. Like their
That's
name.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's so
He's
cool.
a super rad character. I really like him. It's that whole kind of like, oh, this is permanent, but like because you're immortal, it's like
Yeah,
even more.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What if he runs out? He runs out of
Well,
space.
his whole
like,
thing
fuck.
is like he hopes like he shouldn't like he wants to end the wars and stuff before that happens.
Right.
That's his
Right.
goal. But
Cool.
it's kind of like this impossible task, right? Because
Yeah.
the
I
storyline
understand.
needs to continue. But yeah, that always stood out to me as being like, this sounds kind of harmful, but metal is fuck, bro. Like,
No, it's
holy
metal.
crap.
It's so fucking metal.
Yeah.
So, Vulkan and his brothers.
Yeah.
He got along with a lot of them pretty well. He liked Ferris. They both
Mhm.
liked forging. They got along with that. They
Oh.
had like a really good time debating and bonding over it.
My brain heard foraging, and I just saw them out in the woods, like getting some mushrooms.
Ferris, have you found anything good? I found these nuts. Oh,
Look, brother.
look,
These
brother,
only grow in the spring, brother. They're quite delicious.
the grapes are very ripe this year.
Be careful, brother. That one's poisonous.
Oh, be careful, brother. These strawberries are delicious.
Whoa. Those are nightlock, Peter. You'd be dead in a minute.
Stop. Hey, fun fact.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Iron Hands, what they say in battle?
The flesh is weak.
That's right.
at
That
me.
comes from something Vulcan told Ferris. Ferris was joking about during a battle, his arms were getting tired from killing so many orcs. And
Okay.
Vulcan replied, "The flesh is weak, but the deeds endure."
Yeah. No,
So-
that's super cool.
It's just one of those things where it's interesting seeing like that quote get turned into this almost twisted, like we're going to knock off the second half of that and we're only going to focus on the flesh is weak and we're going to take that literally.
But it's also just like a completely aside. What a good mantra.
The flesh is weak, but the deeds endure.
Because like I have depression, and
Uh-huh.
I think everybody's had those moments of like, what does it matter? I'm gonna die anyway.
Mm.
But then if you think to yourself, the flesh is weak, but the deeds endure, and then you go do the thing, and then you like
You're
make
like,
the world a
"Yo."
little brighter,
Yeah. Yeah.
then the deeds endure.
So while both Ferris and Vulcan had very different approaches to battle, both had a great respect for one another. And at one point, Vulcan crafted a sword for Ferris
Aw.
that he carried into battle.
Aw.
Vulcan's
that's very
love
nice.
language was entirely like, I made you this thing.
Well, it's gifts and acts
Yeah.
of service.
It's this gift that I made. And I know that it's like
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe you're at like a war meeting and you're like, oh man, I really wish I had like a hammer for all these like orcs. Wow, their armor's like really strong or something. He would come to you the next day and be like, I made you a hammer.
It's like how part of my love language is cooking for people.
Yes. Yes.
Which like love languages, that whole thing, it's an outdated, it's not nearly nuanced enough to actually be like considered factual, but it's a good like base to kind of find self-discovery and exploring categories with.
Yes. Oh, right. I forgot. one time he wanted to make a hammer for Horus as a
Okay.
congratulations for
Horus
becoming
hammer?
the War Master.
For the heresy, the hammer.
Well, hold on.
Oh.
I zip your lips really quick. You're jumping ahead. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. So one of the things that starts to kick off what would become the heresy is Big E leaving, and he promotes Horus to become the War Master, basically the Master in Chief, the leader of the military. And so Vulkan was like, "Ooh, I should make a gift for Horus as like a big congratulations. Wow, holy moly." And so he makes the hammer Dawnbringer, and he brings it over to Horus, and he's like, "Something's off. Your vibe is whack. I'm going to keep this hammer for a while." And so he uses Dawnbringer. I unzip your lips.
Thank you. Was this after Horus had started to fall?
I believe so. It was like
Okay.
he had started to do a couple things, because the Primarchs aren't like always hanging out. They're like on
They're going
different-
they've got quests.
Yeah, they're all on their own quests, and like they
They're-
rarely see each other.
They're all
So
warriors of light, but
mhm.
they are at different expansions.
Yes. So those are pretty much all the brothers he liked. He liked Sanguinius, and he liked Ferris, and he liked Fulgrim. There was one brother he didn't like. There was one brother that he probably, you could just say, straight up hated. Conrad Kurs.
Oh no!
Conrad
this makes sense.
Kurs, Primarch of the 8th Legion, the Night Lords.
The emo guys.
Yeah, they featured in our Halloween episode talking about the Screaming Gallery with all the
Crawling
flesh
in
walls.
my armor.
Yep.
It would
Crawling
probably
in my
help
crawl.
if I bathed some time.
Yeah.
But I have Axe body spray.
Ew.
So I don't need
Ew.
to.
Vulkan did not agree with Conrad's methods of war and openly critiqued his decisions and his general lack of humanity.
Yeah,
Conrad found Vulcan's moral superiority infuriating.
they always
He wanted
do.
to prove that Vulcan would become just as horrible as he was if he was pushed far enough. And so
That's problematic.
Conrad devised a plan.
If you ever find yourself doing something that could be called a scheme, and it's not like a surprise birthday party or something, check in with yourself real quick.
Bro is
Be like, why am
rubbing
I
his
actually
hands
scheming
together
right now?
He's like,
If this goes right, would it be appropriate for me to post that clip of Smithers or what's his name, Mr. Burns going excellent? Like,
Yeah, something like that.
just check in with yourself real quick and be like,
I'd
am
more
I the
equate it-
person I want to be?
I'd more equate it to the Joker going down some shit. Like, it just takes one bad day. That kind of
I was
shit.
gonna say this depends highly
Jonkler.
on which Joker,
Just one
because
bad
some of those are
day.
funny and some of those people die.
So it's time to talk about Karaton.
Karaton.
Karaton was a world that
Okay.
had a human population that came to worship a group of Eldari that ruled over them.
My brain is going, that's a red flag. Okay.
The Salamanders and the Night Lords were deployed to bring the planet's population under Imperium rule.
Okay.
The Salamanders began the assault by preparing to siege the city of Karaton. Calculations were all made to reduce the amount of civilian casualties,
Wait.
damage to the city, that sort of thing. And meanwhile, Vulcan was getting along with a remembrancer named Seraph, who had taken a great interest in the Primarch. She would follow him even to his forge to ask him about his childhood and to get to know him more. So a remembrancer is basically a scribe that follows around a Primarch. They usually have a group
Right.
of them.
Right. Yeah.
And they just write down like deeds.
How
and
to make
shit.
a narcissist.
Not exactly. It's more like
it's like the
it's
guy from Name of the Wind who writes down like
chronicler.
Yeah.
But it's also A, these are essentially demigods walking around. B, it's a good way to keep track of like what the fuck are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're so spread out, right?
Right.
And C, you know, when this is all said and done, you will be legends forever.
Yeah.
Your history, we will have like a perfect record of what
almost-
exactly went down.
And I could be totally wrong in this interpretation, But it to me, like, this was always an aspect of my understanding of the disciples of Christ.
It's very
Like,
similar.
Part of it was they were recording or
Yes,
like
it's very,
being
very,
witness
very
to
similar.
the acts that he was
Yes.
doing. So yeah, sounds like a similar kind of role.
Are you
I
ready for a
understand the
story
vibe.
time?
I am. Okay, guys, let's get cut. I got some crocheting to do. Let's get cozy.
The air was hot, stifling. Seraph was wearing a rebreather and put questions to the Primarch through voxcoder attached to her belt. It made her otherwise mellifluous voice tinny and marred with static.
And so you were raised a blacksmith's son?
She asked, wiping away another bead of sweat from her brow, dark patches showing under the arms of her robes and down her back. The Remembrancer took a moment to sip from a flask she wore at her hip. Without it, dehydration and acute heat stroke would have occurred in minutes. She wanted longer with the Lord of Drakes, and if this was the only way, then so be it.
Is that so hard to believe?
Vulkan answered as the sound and smell of burning flesh, his flesh, filled the chamber.
And he was a black smiter and a metal shaper, a craftsman of consummate skill that I greatly admired.
Noted.
Said Seraph, scratching with her stylus on the data slate in her other hand.
It just seems like a humble origin for a Lord of Space Marines.
The Remembrancer was sweltering now, having endured a full 21 minutes in the Primarch's chambers, a feat none before her had matched without expiring from the heat.
Should I have had a more regal upbringing then?
No, I didn't mean that,
said Seraph.
It's just I assumed all the Primarchs came from warlike, vaunted beginnings. Either that or born as orphans on Death Worlds.
Nocturne is a death world, and hardly civilized, but our origins were all very different. I wonder sometimes how we all came back to our father's service as warriors and generals, but here we stand at the forefront of a great crusade doing just that.
Seraph frowned, then wiped her brow with the sleeve of her robe.
What else could you have been?
Tyrants, murderers, architects. It was only fate that made us leaders, and I am still unsure as to how our genetic heritage predisposed us to that calling.
And which would you have been then?
Vulkan smiled, though it did little to warm his diabolic voice.
A farmer, I think.
You would take your blacksmiter's anvil and turn a sword into a plowshare, is that it?
Overly poetic, but yes, that's it.
Seraph paused. Either she was gasping in the heat or drawing some conclusions.
You don't seem like the others.
And you know my brothers, do you? Remembrancer Seraph.
There was a mild reproach in Vulkan's tone, just enough to intimidate. It flustered the Remembrancer, and she looked on the verge of collapse.
No, of course not. I just heard...
A wise chronicler does not believe all she hears, Seraph.
For the first time since the interview began, Vulkan raised his head.
Tell me,
he said, his voice deepening.
What do you see in my eyes?
They blazed like the calderas of a volcano.
Fire.
At last, she wilted. Vulkan rushed forwards and caught her so that she did not fall.
Okay, so this is happening at his forge?
He's in the middle of, like, getting one of those brands.
Or, okay, so is this like his chambers at the palace, or are we on this world?
We're on a ship.
We're on a ship. Like,
we're on a ship.
Space Marine ship going somewhere.
Because, like, their ships are, like, the size of continents. They're enormous.
Yeah. So he's just got the heat all the way up.
Oh, yeah. Bro's got it cranked to, like, 120 all the fucking time. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of chilly in here.
This is how, if you asked my dad, this is what he would say I did with the thermostat.
God.
I
do not like your father.
Like 2 degrees. Like I was cold. But
it's like when, do you remember being in the car as a kid and you would be like, ooh, I dropped something. Let me turn on the overhead light. And you would do that. And then your parent would be like, turn that off. We're going to die. They would act like they were actively going to, like, swerve into oncoming traffic. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
That's what it feels like.
I mean, don't turn on the light. It's best not to. But
It's going to be on for like
He
2
could
seconds while
have
I
this
find the thing on the floor.
conversation. He could have this conversation with this woman not in this room.
The idea is that they are very busy. Primarchs
Right.
like barely ever have any free time.
But he can survive in not superheated environments.
Yeah, but he had
But he's
enough time in his
comfortable.
schedule to get a brand, and he's in his room. And I need to stress this. Seraph is like Vulkan fan number 1. She's
Right.
in there. She's like, I fucking love this guy. I want to know everything about him. She's the
Fair.
dedicated reporter.
Okay.
So she's like, I will follow you
Oh.
literally into like a furnace if I can get like another interview. Absolutely. And Vulcan's like, that's cute.
Right.
He's very gentle with her. As you saw, she fainted from the heat and he caught her and was like, okay. And he like brought her back to like a place where they would like cool down and
Yeah.
possibly be taken care of.
At the waterfall.
Yeah, he like, she falls off a cliff.
And he catches,
catches
her.
her.
And then they're crying, but then suddenly they're kissing. And then,
Oh, and then the armor comes. Oh, no.
Oh. Then he
You
has a
get that-
panic attack and he remembers his past trauma.
And he's like, I killed my dad. And
and
he's
I
like,
almost
oh,
killed you.
Oh, man.
Sorry about
Well, I've never done this before.
And then Skull Knight shows up.
And Skull Knight shows up. Is Skull Knight Conrad Kurs in
Unless
this
you're
scenario?
watching the 1997 anime in which they just
Where he just
skip
doesn't
over
exist.
that.
He just doesn't exist. Skull Knight doesn't exist.
Right.
As the Salamanders prepared to assault the city, Vulcan armored himself and stood before his sons. And right before he's given a speech, going over the game plan, he looks to one of his sons and he says,
Skatarvar,
said Vulcan.
how is Seraph?
The Remembrancer? He asked, initially wrong-footed by the request. She lives?
Good.
Oh,
Said Vulcan. He addressed them all.
You are my finest drakes, my most trusted advisors. Our father fashioned us as crusaders to bring fire and light to the darkest reaches of the galaxy. Our task is to protect mankind, shield humanity. It's important that the Remembrancer Order sees this. Our appearance is...
Monstrous, my lord, ventured Leodrak, eyes blazing through his helm lenses. Vulcan nodded.
We come to Karaton as liberators, not conquerors. We cannot forge civilizations out of rubble, out of sundered flesh and bone.
And our cousins, will they hold to that also? A voice asked from the shadows. All eyes turned to Agaiatron, whose gaze was fixed on the Primarch.
If they do not,
Vulcan promised.
my brother and I will have words.
Dude, salamander names are awesome.
a Gaiatron?
Agaiatron.
It sounds like
Skatarvar.
somebody
My
like,
legs are like
panicked
shaking. I'm so like excited. I love
and
salamanders
had to
so
come
much.
up with like a brand new Autobot, and they were like some guy,
Leodrak.
a Tron.
God, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love
Okay,
salamanders.
so
They're
first
so
of all-
fucking cool.
Him and Seraph are in love, and I love it. This is great.
Can a Primarch and a human truly find love on the battlefield?
They find love anywhere,
Oh, damn.
especially when you know how to heat things up. You know what I'm talking about.
You know how like people produce heat,
I do.
and you know how like
Kita is amazed every time I do it.
Kita's amazed. You know how like I'm pretty warm, so Kita likes me a lot.
It's the hierarchy of
If
who
Vulcan
Kita
was in
goes
our-
to.
If Vulcan was in our lives,
Mhm.
Kita would never see us again. She
So you
would
know-
always be on him.
So you know
He's
how
the
Guts-
warmest boy.
Yeah, Guts has to like go to like sit on the hill because he's so warm.
He's so
all the
warm.
time.
He likes
Vulcan
to be up high
would
and
need
cold.
to be like sitting on the moon.
I'm real warm.
He'd be he's
Oh, that would be such a problem if he likes. You know how like nobody likes a warm pillow.
oh no.
Oh,
But when it's
no.
cold, you really want to. No, okay, so this happens in Twilight because at one point,
No.
at one point,
no,
at one point, okay, the best thing, the vampires, like they're not just like corpses; they're like made of stone.
Oh my
That's why they're
God.
cold, right?
Uh-huh.
But that also like because they don't produce heat. So at one point, Bella nearly drowns, and she's
Okay.
cold because it was like in the
Okay,
ocean.
She's real cold.
And Edward saves her.
Uh-huh.
And everybody's like, oh my God. But she's so cold. And she's
Yeah.
like, they have to warm her up, right? But Edward can't warm her up. He's not warm. So Jacob has to cuddle her. And Jacob sits there cuddling her and like warming her up. And she's like, oh, you're so warm. And Edward just stares at them like all night because he doesn't sleep.
Jesus Christ.
It's crazy.
I'm so upset that everything comes back to Twilight.
Everything comes back to
So
Twilight.
upset.
It's not my fault. I was just there.
So the Salamanders go to the city.
Yeah.
They've got all their plans out. They're like, all right, casualties, we've got a plan. Casualties to a minimum. Deaths, minimum. Building damage, minimum. We're here to liberate, not to conquer.
Right. This is great.
The city was completely dead.
Wait.
Corpses amongst rubble, piled high in horrifying displays of gore. Not just soldiers, but civilians. There was no doubt that the Night Lords were responsible, and the Salamanders were disgusted and enraged by what they had done. Vulkan ordered the city to be burned.
Okay, fair.
Back up on the escarpment, Vulkan was alone, but for the distant roar of the flames below. Karaton burned. It burned with the fire of 1,000 flame gauntlets. Vulkan having set his pyroclast to the task of burning the city to ash. He wanted no such monument to slaughter to stand any longer than was strictly necessary. Its very existence had disturbed the army cohorts especially, and even the legionaries treated it warily. Vulkan waited patiently, listening to the Vox channel he had just opened. It took several seconds of a softly crackling static before Vulkan got an answer. When he did, it sounded like the person on the other end of the link was smiling. Brother. Despite himself, Vulkan couldn't disguise his anger.
What have you done, Kurs?
Freed you from dirtying your hands. We arrived early while you were still marshaling your tanks and titans.
My orders were to take the city as bloodlessly as possible.
I don't follow your orders, brother. Besides, it's better this way.
Better for whom? You've slaughtered an entire city. Men, women, children, all dead. It is a butchery worthy of Angron's legion in there.
Do not confuse me with a hot-headed sibling. Though I believe you would run him close at this precise moment. Are you angry with me?
Vulkan clenched his fists, biting back a retort.
You and I know this was never going to be a bloodless compliance. 1546 is a war world, and no warrior I have ever fought has given up without first shedding a little blood.
A little. You practically exsanguinated the entire populace.
And what do you think that would do to their fighting spirit? Vulkan turned sharply at the sound of Kurs's voice, not through the Vox anymore. He was there. The Night Haunter was a few paces behind him, standing in the shadows at the edge of the flickering firelight.
You are either bold or foolish meeting me out here like this,
Vulkan warned. Why? What are you going to do? Kurs stepped out of the shadows. He went without a helmet, the light hitting his features in such a way that where the darkness pooled, it made him appear gaunt, almost skeletal. Vulkan kept his voice level, neutral.
Are you trying to goad me, Kurs? Do you want this to escalate?
That sounded like a threat. Kurs smiled thinly. Was that a threat, brother? Am I a rough blade to be tempered at your righteous anvil? Do you also think yourself my better and my teacher, then? Vulkan ignored him, instead gesturing at the inferno that had been Karaton City.
Look at what your deeds have wrought.
What my deeds have wrought? Vulkan, you sound like a poet, and a poor one at that. Kurs grew serious. I have broken this world for you, brother. By culling the city you are now putting to the torch, I have spared us a wealth of blood. What do you think this world's rebels will do when they see and hear of what we have done to one of their major cities? Defying Vulkan's palpable anger, Kurs took a step closer with every emphasized word.
They will cower and shrink and weep.
When the two were face to face, he snarled at the last part through a barricade of teeth.
Begging for mercy.
He stepped back, opening his arms.
And you can give it to them. That is my gift.
Vulkan shook his head.
Terror is your gift. They were women and children, Kurs. Innocents.
Kurs sneered bitterly.
No one is innocent.
You came from the gutters, brother, but our father has raised you up. Stop acting like a murderous swine you inherited on Nostromo.
Raised me, did he? Brought me up from the darkness and into the light. We are killers, Vulkan, all of us. Don't try to convince me we are noble men, for we are not. My eyes have just opened before yours, that's all.
Kurs turned and walked away, back down the ridge.
Fear, Vulkan, he called, disappearing into the shadows. That's the only thing they understand. You all need to learn that.
Vulkan did not reply. His body was trembling. Looking down, he saw his forge hammer gripped in both hands. He hadn't even realized he'd picked it up. He gasped, exhaling to relieve the tension, and fought his body. When he was calm again, he turned towards the inferno. The flames were rising now, touching the sky with tendrils of coiling black smoke. It reminded him of Isbin and the jungles that he had set ablaze there. How many worlds must burn before this is over? He stood in silence, just watching, and stayed like that for several minutes, until a quiet voice from behind the Primarch disturbed his reverie. Lord Vulkan? It was the Remembrancer, Seraph.
Oh.
Your equerry said you'd be up here.
Did he also tell you I did not wish to be disturbed?
Seraph bowed her head slightly.
He, was too preoccupied to stop me.
Vulkan turned his back on her.
I am not in the mood for further questions now.
Sincere apologies, my lord. I had hoped to continue our... Vulkan's head snapped around savagely.
I said not now!
She shrank back, her eyes alive with fear. Kurs's last words came back to him, almost mocking, but Vulkan was powerless. He glared, eyes burning with hot fury. This was the monster. This was the image he was trying so hard to conceal from the Remembrancers. His heart pulsed, and his chest heaved up and down like giant bellows. Kurs was right. He was a killer. That was the purpose in which he had been bred. His anger at what his brother had done, the memory of those bodies, the children. It was overwhelming, so consuming that Vulkan hissed his next command and filled the air with the smell of ash and cinder.
Leave me alone.
Seraph fled down the ridge. Vulkan didn't bother watching her go. Instead, he watched the burning ruins of Karaton.
It will all end in fire when the galaxy burns,
He said, a heavy melancholy settling upon him.
and all of us will light the torch.
They're having a squabble.
So, okay, Conrad's just crazy.
Oh, he's insane.
It's
He's
not like
nuts.
he's delusional. He's off the fucking rocker.
He is past, like, I'm telling myself I'm doing this for a noble cause, and just like, but if we kill everyone, then there won't be anyone to hurt, right?
He's not just Joffrey crazy, where it's like obviously something's fucking wrong there.
He's the
like
Jonkler.
Renly crazy,
Oh, yeah.
where it's like there has been no.
Bro puts the Boltons to shame.
Yeah, like it's like comedically bad.
Yes.
How like fucked up he is.
It is absurd that he is
Mhm.
like considered a loyalist. You know what I mean?
Right. We'll put him in a different genre and he would have a curly mustache and be like,
Oh, I'm crazy.
yeah. I feel like this happens in The Boys at one point. A similar
Okay.
conversation between two characters where one character kind of solves a problem the easy way.
Right.
But the easy way is letting many people die, including
Dude, I
children.
can't wait. I cannot wait to do a deep dive when we talk about Conrad, because his entire I almost said vibe, but his entire delusion is that
the vibe is off.
the vibe is off. The vibe is atrocious.
The vibe is rancid.
He very much believes that he's broken. He is just straight up like broken. He's a terrible person, and he's like, you know,
it is
he's
a
horrible.
trauma.
And his logic is everyone is just like me, but they're lying. So I will show that everyone is bullshit.
There was in Berserk,
Mm-hmm.
the show.
Yeah.
The one that I'm currently
You're on
watching.
the conviction arc.
So as I expected, for some reason I had a feeling of this, but I knew there was a good possibility I was going to be wrong, but it seems to be going along with what I thought. Farnese is by far like the most interesting character to me.
Oh, she's incredibly interesting.
I love her. I have in my head thought to myself several times, a man wrote this character. And I don't mean that as an insult.
You're impressed.
I'm like, yeah, several times I've been like, here it is. Here's like the Mura everyone has talked to me about.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I get it.
The peak fiction.
But she had a particular line in like one of her like, we're now on the road, so one or two characters get a flashback episode to explain why they are the way they are.
Yeah.
She has this moment where for context, she's basically this little girl who's grown up in this like rich aristocratic family for no want for anything, but her parents are absent because they're out working or whatever. So, and like none of the house staff have ever like stood up to her. So basically she's grown up incredibly spoiled and she's like horrid. She is terrible. Nobody likes her. She's mean to everyone. Mm-hmm. She just causes trouble and she's just like a little bitch, and she knows she's a bitch, and everybody knows she's a bitch, and everybody's kind of like she's a lost cause, like she's like spoiled. But at one point I had this moment while watching where she is laying in bed and she's scared of the thunder outside, so she's with her Serpico, who is like her bodyguard.
Yeah.
And he's like holding her hand, and she's telling him she wants him to stop the storm because she's scared. And he's confused, and he's like, I can't do that. That's not possible. Like, I'd do anything for you, but that's not something I can do. And she kind of snaps, and she ends up running outside and dancing around in the rain. And she says, if I know what I have to do, I have to be a storm too. That's the way to keep me safe, is to be as dangerous, to be as loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching this, and I was like,
peak.
Well, it made me, it clicked something in my head that I feel like I've never understood about people who lash out when they're scared.
Yes.
That's something that I have experienced in my life with people. It's something that I've had it happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not how I react. I go inward when I'm scared or when I feel threatened. I'm more of a freeze, fawn response.
You're a turtle.
Yeah. And not in a judgmental way, but just like I've never understood the opposite, because to me, anytime I've
you've never had that perspective.
It was never the safe way to protect myself. And growing into adulthood, it's always been a frustrating thing because I don't feel like it is very productive, and sometimes it can be difficult to communicate with people who that is their response to something. Sometimes it results in harm, unfortunately. But yeah, watching that and hearing that line, it gave me a little, like I was empathetic already, because if you're going through something scary, of course you're going to respond. But like that helped me understand it a little bit more.
Yes.
And
Conrad Kurs is very much, he comes from a planet that is arguably one of, if not the worst one, that the Primarchs end up on.
Okay.
And so he decides, very similar to Farnese. I read it. I never listened.
choosing
keep
different
switching?
ways to say it.
Okay.
I say it Farnese, but they keep going like Farnisai.
Ugh,
And I'm assuming in Japanese it's like Fanasuri.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I've only read it. I don't know how to actually say it. But anyway, that character. It's very similar to where
180 Chan.
I have to become a storm. Conrad goes, I must become the Night Haunter.
Yeah.
I need to
The
fix
most powerful
everything.
ghost type Pokemon.
I need to become something that is so horrible that everyone will be scared to do anything wrong, and thus everything will become a utopia. I will carry this burden.
Yeah.
And so he takes that with him wherever he goes.
If
I can't wait to
cause
talk
pain,
about Conrad.
No one can hurt me.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I love? And I can't wait. I keep saying I can't wait to talk about Conrad because it's true. I'm gonna put so many excerpts of him talking to his captain, Sevatar, where I'll give you a little glimpse of basically they're Sevatar. Again, it's another one of those names that I've only read.
Okay.
He's basically talking to his captain and he's having a meltdown. And he's talking and like crying and saying like, I did everything for the right reasons. I'm justified. I am righteous. I did it. It was necessary. Everything I did was necessary. And his captain looks at him and he goes, no, you took the easy way.
Yeah, deal with it. That's the reality you made.
He basically explains to Conrad, well, he doesn't explain to him, but he points out like, Conrad basically goes on this whole thing of like, no, you don't understand. Like the other legions, the other traitor legions, they're just as bad as me. Like it's crazy. And Sevatar's like, bro, you taught us how to do this. You didn't teach us like how to use diplomacy.
Right.
You taught us to skin like women and children. You taught us to be scary. You did this.
Those little moments Cersei saw the monster in Joffrey.
Yes.
And was like,
I love Sevatar.
I'll be fine.
Anyway, so yeah, I can't wait to talk about him. But he is very much like the direct opposite of Vulkan, where Vulkan is like, I want to keep everything minimum. Like I have to do this because, it's my job, but I don't want to hurt more people than I have to. And ideally, I don't hurt anybody, but we're going to have to take this city. They're not going to go without some fights. So let's just try to keep the destruction on a down low. And meanwhile, Conrad is like, I'm going to fucking make a meat altar.
We'll take this city with blood and gore. No!
Yep. Stop that.
We're supposed to talk to them.
Yeah. So Vulkan hates Conrad for that reason, but Conrad hates Vulkan because he's like, you're pretending to be nice. Like you're just like me. You're just like me. I'll show you that you're just like me.
One of the things that this kind of conversation reminds me about is a lot of like very dramatic conversations in Full Metal Alchemist.
Yes.
Where like Edward will be like, but you didn't have to like kill so many people. And then like some evil person will be like, but it was fun.
It was really fun.
And look at my fun little piece of jewelry now.
The next part of the scheme occurred. Conrad's methods proved effective, and most of the other cities on Karaton surrendered or barely resisted. In the final days of the campaign, the population was divided. Eldar psychers were forced to wear collars that would prevent them from using their powers, and humans were loaded up onto transports to be relocated and re-educated back into the Imperium. The population was forced into camps awaiting transport, a long line. On one side, the Salamanders, the other, the Night Lords. The Night Lords would purposely stand in the path of the people to force them to wince and stumble back into the line or cause them to flinch with sudden movements, and they fed off of this fear. Vulkan was preoccupied with his duties, planning the next phase of the campaign. Conrad was nowhere to be seen. Everyone was awaiting transport off-world.
Okay. Not a comment on the actor. I think the actor is a very nice person, but the trends of the characters he plays, I feel like Tom Felton would play a Night Lord.
I don't know who Tom Felton is. I'm going to look it up right now. Tom Felton. Tom Felton. Oh,
Draco
Draco Malfoy.
Because he's also, remember, he plays the guy in the first Planet of the Apes. The guy who's just like, for some reason, torturing the monkeys.
And then you watch the behind the scenes where they don't have the CGI on Andy Serkis, and you're just like, how are people taking, like, these are great actors, because holy shit, I'd be laughing my ass off anytime he just like crawled up to the glass and be like, oh, I'd lose my shit every time. I like those movies quite a bit.
They're interesting. We should watch the originals.
They're fun to watch. I want to see the originals very badly.
They're really fun to watch.
All I know is the Simpsons bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got 2 lines.
Okay.
One of Eldar. There's a couple Eldar, and one of humans. And they're all waiting to be, wherever the Eldar are going. We know the humans are going off-world, but yep, you got one side's Night Lords, one side's Salamanders, and they're all just like patrolling, making sure everything's great.
Right.
Warp lightning struck.
Uh-oh.
Once,
oh, no.
Twice. And then bolter rounds followed. The Night Lords stalked towards the commotion like predators. The Salamanders, confused, tried to find out what was happening. The Eldar somehow got loose and were attempting to escape. Chaos ensued. Humans attempted to flee from the Space Marines. The Night Lords turned their bolters to them and fired into the crowd.
Okay. We've seen this before.
Salamanders don't know what's going on. They try to stop everybody from panicking. They call Vulcan. Call Dad, it's bad.
Yeah.
They ordered the Night Lords to stop, but nothing was going right. They didn't listen. They didn't give a shit. Eventually,
the Salamanders would try to input gun control, and the Night Lords would be like, arm the teachers.
I love arming the teachers. Everyone should have a gun. And
Arm
that gun should
the
have a
students.
knife. Eventually, Vulcan gets there. And he's just towering over everybody. And he marched to the center of the panic. And there's just a field of bodies.
Right.
And at its center, several Eldar witches dead on the ground.
Okay.
But one was still alive. A child.
Got it.
She stood, knife in hand, swinging wildly like a cornered animal. Vulcan stood speechless at the scene. Behind the child, the Night Lords walked forward like hyenas about to pounce on their prey. There was a scream, and Vulcan turned his head. The remembrancers were crowded around something. Someone. Seraph. She had been grazed by a bolter in the commotion. There was so much blood. It was certain that she was already gone.
Oh, no. My boy's about to go fucking Baba Yaga on everyone's ass.
Vulcan saw her last of all. The shock of this discovery turning to anger on his noble face. His eyes blazed, embers flickered into infernos. The Eldar child raised her hands higher, defiance turning into fear upon her alien features. Numion held the others back, warning them with a look not to intervene. Glaring down at her, Vulcan raised his fist, and the air turned to fire. The Night Lords waited for the screams to end, then turned to return to their duties. Vulcan went to stand above Seraph's body. An elderly man with rheumy eyes and wizened features gazed up at the Lord of Drakes. "We'll see her back to the ships," he said. Vulcan opened his mouth to say something, but he could find no words to express his feelings. Instead, he nodded before replacing his helmet, but found it could not hide his shame as well as it could his face. Turning, he became aware of his warriors gathering next to him. "The Legion awaits you, my lord," said Varen humbly, and gave a slight bow of his head. About to respond, Vulcan stopped short when he felt someone watching him from afar. Looking around, he caught the sight of a dark and distant shadow out on the dunes. A second later, his helmet vox crackled to life.
"See, brother,
Oh my god.
I knew you had it in you. A cold-hearted killer, just like me."
Vulcan replied.
I am nothing like you.
And severed the link. Yet the stench of burning alien flesh remained. So
He's a
that's the
jigsaw.
context behind
He's out there on a
Eldar
little
child.
tricycle being.
Vulkan. Vulkan, did you know that you're just as fucked up as I am? I'm just a little quirky Vulkan. Vulkan!
He's got the little
He's just a
circles
little
on his
quirky.
cheeks.
Meanwhile,
I'm just a
he's
little quirky
fucking-
Vulkan.
what's his name from Quest for Camelot?
Ruber.
Yeah.
Vulkan, I have a plan. It includes you.
Oh, jeez.
So that's the context behind the kid thing.
So the kid didn't actually do anything.
No,
This isn't.
but
This
the kid
isn't.
started the riot.
This child did not engage in violence
Perhaps
purposefully.
she just wanted to run away.
That's what I mean. He's committed a war crime.
Yes, Vulkan has committed a war crime.
So why did he kill the child?
Vulcan's greatest weakness, like you see it with Seraph when they're on the hill. Like when he's emotional, he lashes out. He when he feels like he yelled at Seraph and that like scared her. And he was
Right.
like, I shouldn't have done that, but whatever.
Yeah.
And in
can't-
this moment,
Right.
he loses his shit.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I feel this pain inside me. Where do I put it?
Right.
And then your brain is looking for an association.
Yeah.
Child, alien caused this. Yes, war crime.
Yeah.
He does not feel good that he did this.
It's a supercharged situation.
Yes.
This is going to be his dark passenger.
This is his guts moment. And you
Yeah,
know
this
what I
is-
mean when I say that.
Yeah, this happens a lot in
Yes.
stories where a character like does something and then it's a breaking point for them because they never thought they'd go that far.
Yes. You fuck up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to get humbled.
You gotta get humbled.
You're not quite what you thought you were, and you got to stop resting on your laurels and keep learning.
Vulcan's greatest fault is his anger.
Yeah.
It's not good. And you know what's great? We're not through with this yet.
Okay, cool. Also, I can't believe they fridged my girl.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Well, the moment you were like, oh, they're in love, I was like, she's not gonna fucking like where this is going.
Of course I'm not going to like where this is going. It's Warhammer. That's the genre. It's getting worse. That's the genre.
Yeah. The riot during the settling of the Karaton citizenry had resulted in many deaths. And though he suspected his brother's Night Lords had been partially responsible for that, he could not absolve himself of all blame. Seraph lay before him within her casket. It was plain, unadorned, a simple metallic tube with a cryo engine built in to retard putrefaction and to ensure that the deceased reached their place of final rest unspoiled. The medicae had cleaned up her wounds, but the blood stain on her robes remained. Were it not for that, and the grim pallor of her skin, then Vulkan might have believed that she was merely sleeping. He wanted to tell her that he was sorry she was dead, that he wished that he had heeded her during the burning of Karaton and acceded to her request for an interview. His story should be told, he had decided, and Seraph would be the one to do it. But not anymore. A corpse could tell no stories. He bowed his head by way of a mute apology. Why this one? A voice asked softly from the shadows. Vulkan didn't turn, but he raised his head.
What are you still doing here?
He asked, suddenly stern. I came looking for you, brother, said Kurs, coming to stand alongside Vulkan.
You have found me.
I sense a little choler in you. Kurs almost sounded wounded by it. Aren't you pleased to see me? Now Vulkan looked at him. His eyes were brimming with undisguised vitriol.
Say what it is you came to say, and leave me.
Kurs sniffed, as if amused by it all. You didn't answer my question. Of all the mortals who died to make this world compliant for our Imperium, why does this one matter so much? Vulkan turned his gaze forwards again.
I preserve life. I am a protector of humanity.
Of course you are, brother. But how you threw yourself in harm's way for her, it was inspiring. Kurs smiled. Then the smile became a grin, and unable to maintain the pretense, he began to laugh. No, I'm sorry. He stopped laughing and grew serious. I am baffled by it. Yours is a bleeding heart, Vulkan. I know how you care for these weaklings, but what made this one so special that you would mourn her passing so? Vulkan turned and was about to answer when the Vox bead in his ear crackled. Neither Primarch was wearing his battle helm, but they were still connected to the battle group. So they had just received that every single person brought from the planet was
Right.
found dead
Okay.
in the transport ships.
Great.
As one Primarch's eyes widened, the others narrowed, and Vulkan knew that Kurs was hearing the self-same message. Vulkan reached out for his brother, seizing him by his gorget and dragging him close. Kurs smiled and did not resist.
Did you do this?
Vulkan asked.
Did you do this?
He bellowed when Kurs didn't answer straight away. The smile thinned and became a dark line of Kurs's pale lips. Yes, he hissed, cold eyes staring. Vulkan let him go, thrusting him back from his sight as he turned away.
You killed all of them.
Kurs feigned confusion. They were our enemies, brother. They took up arms against us. They tried to kill us. Vulkan faced him again, enraged, almost pleading, abhorred by what Kurs had done.
Not all, Conrad. You murdered the innocent, the weak. How does that serve anything but a sadistic desire for bloodshed?
Kurs seemed genuinely to muse on that. He frowned. I am not sure it does, brother. But how is that any different to what you did to that Xenos? She was only a child, no threat to you. The rebels of Karaton were afforded a quick death. At least, I didn't burn them alive. Vulkan had no answer. He had killed the child in anger, out of grief for Seraph and retribution for the damage the rampaging Xenos had caused. Perhaps it was also because he hated them, the Eldar, for their raiding and the pain they had inflicted on Nocturne. Kurs saw his brother's doubt. See, he said quietly, coming in close to a whisper. Our humors are similar enough, are they not, brother? Vulkan roared and seized the other Primarch, throwing him across the hold. Kurs slid, his armor shrieking as it scored the metal deck beneath. He was already on his feet when Vulkan came at him, and succeeding in blocking a wild punch aimed at his face, he jabbed, catching Vulkan in the chest and jarring his ribs even through his armor. Vulkan grunted pain and grabbed Kurs's head and thrust it down on his rising knee. Kurs rocked back, bloody spittle expelled from his mouth. Vulkan tackled him around the waist, giving his brother no time to recover, and brought him down on his back. A savage punch turned Kurs's head and cut open his cheek. He was laughing through the blood-rimmed teeth. Vulkan hit him again, shuddering his jaw. Kurs only laughed louder and choked a little on his windpipe being crushed. Vulkan clamped his hands, his iron-hardened black smiter's hands, around his brother's throat.
I knew you were no different.
Kurs hissed, trying to laugh.
A killer. We're all killers, Vulkan.
Vulkan released him. He sat back, still straddling Kurs, and gasped for air, for sanity. He would have killed him if he hadn't stopped. He would have murdered his brother. A little unsteady still, Vulkan rose to his feet and stepped across Kurs's supine body.
Stay away from me,
he warned, out of breath, and strode from the hold where his transport was waiting. Kurs stayed down, but turned his head to watch Vulkan go, knowing it was far from over between them.
Bro
so
is
Vulkan gets a...
obsessed.
Bro has problems.
Bro's a little menace.
He's a little guy. Honestly.
The camel's back is obliterated.
The camel's back is obliterated. Next time I see you, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I
Right,
swear to
yeah,
God.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Sweet.
Kurs sucks.
We knew that one.
Yeah.
Kurs sucks. I know. Killed all our hostages of war. Now,
Prisoners of war. You mean bodies? I love bodies.
Now I smack him onto the floor. I thought from the description of like what was physically happening during that fight for just a second, a beautiful moment of hope. I thought he was gonna spank him.
No!
I thought he was gonna just
You've
like
been a bad
put him over
boy,
his knee
Kurs.
and just like
The most
Bam, bam,
humiliating thing you could possibly do to him.
imagine.
This is not the last time Vulkan is gonna beat the fucking shit out of Kurs.
Right. Good.
So get hype.
Okay.
Get hype.
Punch a Nazi.
Yeah.
Do it. It's fun.
It's morally correct.
It's the American thing to do, really.
It's true! Our story with Vulkan is not yet over, though. He would later go to Caldera with Ferris and Mortarion, who we have not talked about yet. And they'd be on a campaign where the human population of Caldera were worshiping these Eldari Exodites as savior gods.
Okay.
The humans were actually discovered to be descendants of Nocturne that were taken by the Drukhari in their raids.
Oh.
And then they were freed by these Exodites. So they were like, I'll do anything for you. You're my god. Yeah, you're like an angel. Absolutely. You want grapes? I'll fucking get you grapes, bro. I'm down. The 3 Primarchs were actually lured to Caldera by the Eldar to psychically contact Ferris.
Oh, we love what your sons are doing to their hands.
No. So the
that
Eldar,
shit is great.
they were luring Ferris there, and they were like, hey, we know we're like aliens and shit, but you gotta listen to us real quick. Shit's about to get bad. One of your brothers is going to betray you.
And then it's like when your friend is playing the game and it's like, you have no idea what is going to happen this expansion. I'm so excited. I can't say anything, but like.
So they're telling Ferris Manus, like, yo, one of your dudes is going to betray you. And he's like, nah, and just doesn't listen.
It'll be fine. These are my bros. What are you talking about?
That's the Imperium way. The entire time while they were on this campaign, there was this weird remembrancer who was guiding Vulkan all the way to a webway portal, where they then witnessed the humans preparing to sacrifice a Drukhari woman to ward her people away from the planet. And Vulkan, in that moment, he's talking to this remembrancer. Oh yeah, it's a weird situation.
Like, how would that, like, on, like, they're gonna send a video, or like they work like wasps, where when they die, they like release a chemical, and then the other ones know that
they've developed a religion to this idea that if we sacrifice this Drukhari, then
it's got a purpose.
They think it has a purpose.
Okay, I understand.
So while they're talking and they're witnessing this, Vulkan is looking over at this remembrancer and he's like, Biggie? He's like, yeah, what up? I was guiding you here to show you that these people would never accept our rule again. They're too far gone. You know what you should do, Vulkan? You remember that Eldar child?
Oh my god, don't bring that up!
You know what you should do, Vulkan? So Vulkan reluctantly purged the world in fire. He was disgusted by his actions and vowed that Caldera would never face destruction like this again.
Oh boy.
Vulkan would go on to have many successful battles, many that would be sad, because at his core, he cares so much, not only for humanity, but for his sons and for the Imperium as a whole. And so whenever something of that nature is lost, even if it's a Xenos, if it's an innocent life, if it's lost, he feels this deep pain. And Conrad Kurs would continue to abuse this fact up until and through the Horus Heresy. But that is a tale for another time.
Remember how my theory about names is that, like, an
Names have
aspect
power.
of the name that a person is given, like, bleeds into, like, their being and, like, their role amongst other people in the universe?
Yes.
In a way that is, like, maybe coincidental or maybe somewhat aligned with, like, the idea that magic has to do with, like, intention, or, you know, if somebody calls you something so many times, maybe it starts to become real. So if you have a name like Speedy, and, like, magic is slowly, every time somebody calls you Speedy, you get a little bit fat. It's like when you put the B movie, but, like, every time he says B, it, like, speeds up a little bit.
No. Yes.
It's interesting that the guy who potentially has explosive anger deep within him and is warm is basically named Volcano.
Yes.
And that the guy who pisses him off all the time is literally a Conrad Kurs.
Yeah. She's getting it.
He's just
They're not subtle.
annoying. Like, that's
Yeah.
why he's there. He's there to piss off the volcano.
Yes.
He's there to poke the bear.
I cannot wait to read an excerpt when we talk about the Horus Heresy of my favorite Conrad ass kicking from Vulkan.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
It's so... I'm not going to spoil it. And
They're like Pokemon rivals. They're like, they always run into each other at important points.
I'm so excited, and I'm not going to spoil it. And I swear to God, if somebody spoils you, I'm going to be so upset.
I had to stop reading a comment the other day because somebody just started like revealing every character death. I was I was upset.
So
Anyway.
that's pretty much Vulkan. How do you feel about Vulkan, Primarch of the 18th Legion, the Salamanders?
I feel like I have really only been given examples of him at his worst.
Welcome to what exists.
Right. And it's gonna get worse.
Vulkan doesn't have a lot.
Warhammer is that meme of like Bart being like, "This is the worst day of my life," and then Homer
Worst
being like,
day of your life so
far.
Vulkan, I feel, is carried by the fact he is so kind when he's not
Yes.
obviously like flying off the handle. He is very kind, and he teaches Legion to be kind. In a sense, despite these not really being humans, they have the most humanity.
Yeah.
And they value that.
Yeah.
So that for the 18th Legion, that carries a lot. Also,
He's like,
green's a great color. Also, dragons are cool. Also, hammers are cool.
personality wise, maybe not, but core values wise and like struggle wise, he's kind of a lot like Thomas in the Dresden Files.
Oh God, you thank God you said what series it was, because I'm like, Thomas. How many? Which one?
The tank engine. He's still thinking about that one guy they bricked in. His corpse
What?
is still in there.
What?
Oh, the episode where they brick one of the engines into like a wall and they never get him out. They just kill a guy.
Dude, I had a weird thing when I was a kid where Thomas the Tank Engine would come on and I would get so fucking mad.
Oh, that was your Conrad Kurs.
I hated Thomas.
Okay, from now on, like, you can call it your Dark Passenger, but you can also call it your Conrad Kurs. I'm sorry to anybody named Conrad.
I, as like a little baby, was like, this show is boring and I've decided it's shit and I hate it. I remember it like it was yesterday. Like it would come on and I'd be like, not this shit again.
I do remember I was never, and like I appreciate it now, but when I was a kid, I didn't really like claymation style stuff very much. I liked Wallace and Gromit, but like that was it.
I liked Wallace and Gromit.
I didn't like the like Christmas movies with like Rudolph and those.
The Rankin Bass. Yes,
and like I feel like Thomas the Tank Engine didn't quite make me that uncomfortable, but it was like heading into that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
That said, Jenny, my sister,
oh, she big in Thomas.
Loved Thomas.
Gotcha.
Everything was
I
Thomas.
I gotcha.
So I inherited a lot of Thomas stuff. So I was familiar.
Uh-huh.
But it just wasn't like my obsession.
So you have Vulkan.
Yeah.
Hey.
What a guy.
Yeah. I'd say the biggest problem with Salamanders as a Space Marine chapter as a whole is the fact that you don't have a lot of reading material.
Yeah, that's kind of poopy.
The thing that sucks is that the books that they have, from all the reviews I've read, they're like, at best, they're fine.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's poopy. Hopefully they get more cool stuff. I mean, as we said at the beginning, I have very much been enjoying the Salamanders that have been showing up in the various shows.
Yeah, they're a fan favorite for a reason.
I think, were there Salamanders in the Astartes 2 trailer?
No.
Okay, I'm just making that up in my brain.
Yeah.
But as
she loves
a person,
Salamanders so much.
But as a person who, you know, is learning and all of the different factions, and you know, who is kind of trying to find ones that I like for various reasons, like they were the first custom build I did in Space Marine.
Yep.
Because I had to pick one. You have to go down. You have to pick a legion as opposed to picking the individual like colors or stamps. You have to like actually pick like I want to go down the salamander route or I want to go down the
Oh, to
ultra.
unlock. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And like it wasn't a question for me. I was just like, oh yeah, I'll do salamanders first.
Has your opinion on salamanders changed all that much?
No. However, but I feel like I'm realizing that there are a lot in the fan base, a lot of like memes or just like the way people talk about salamanders are perhaps using very, what's the word?
Broad generalizations.
Yeah, generalized language.
Yes.
Which makes a lot of sense to me.
So I wanted to pass by a theory that some people subscribe to. And I haven't decided if I do necessarily, but I think it's interesting to talk about. The theory is every Primarch, when created, seemed to have a purpose.
Yeah.
Horus pretty much assumed, like, he's supposed to be, like, the perfect politician, which is ultimately why Big E chooses him to be, like, the war master.
It feels like Emps had, like, a to-do / things I need list. And he was like, how am I going to solve these? And he was like, offspring.
Yes.
And
I'll
then
create
he, like,
little clones of me.
He like assigned each one of them their job. And then he was like, and then the part that's like maybe morally gray, I'll make her do it. Maybe.
So with the idea that every Primarch had some sort of purpose,
yeah,
I saw a theory, and forgive me, I can't remember exactly where I saw it, basically describing the idea that Vulkan was there to replace the Emperor. When all is said and done,
in the long run.
Yeah, when all is said and done and the Great Crusade is over, Vulkan will take my place.
Right.
As like the kind, humanity first ruler.
The Jesus figure.
Yeah, you will be the kind one. You'll be the one who takes it over. Yeah, sure. And Big E will go off and disappear or something.
Install himself in a seat.
Sure.
I mean, that wasn't his plan, but
no. I think it's an interesting idea.
Yeah. I mean, again, due to the fact that time happens, it is the eventual only outcome.
Sure.
If, like, in the sense of, like, there always has to be a Stark and Winterfell. If, like, one of this family always needs to lead the galaxy, then eventually, if only one of them is immortal, that's the one that's going to be left doing it.
And also, didn't immediately go to his legion, and he's, like, being taught personally by the Emperor. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, he's the heir.
Yeah, you're like the heir.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
The word is groomed, but it sounds so bad. But like he
has
is
a negative
being
connotation. Prepped. Yeah, he's being prepped
for taking this role.
Yeah. So currently in 40k, Vulkan is classified as missing. He's either on his respawn timer or he is just hiding somewhere.
What if he shows up like the 10th Doctor after like procrastinating, like dealing with the bad shit for 200 years, and he's got like a tie around his head and like a banana?
So another interesting theory.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Primarchs that have been coming back, the Loyalist ones specifically, have had really interesting associations. For example, Gilman has a lot of associations with the Eldar, with the Yanid specifically. Yvrain and all that shit.
Yeah.
The Lion came back and got like a direct vision from Big E himself.
Okay.
There are a lot of this is theory territory, so do not take this like as this is like what's going to happen. Yeah. Some people are assuming that Leman Russ may be going into Nurgle's garden to save Aisha, the goddess of life.
That's nice.
Vulkan, when he went out last, was dealing with the biggest orc we've ever fucking seen.
Ghazghkull Thraka?
No, bigger.
Okay. Oh.
The beast.
Okay.
So he went out in a glorious fashion. He basically exploded real big. The War of the Beast was weird. Now, the idea is all of these Loyalist Primarchs coming back are almost like the champions of some sort of god.
Okay.
So Gilliman's like the champion of Yanid. Lion is up there with Big E. Russ would be Aisha, and Vulkan would be Gork and Mork.
Okay, so it's almost like how like some humans end up like finding favor with Athena.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
like
think Primarch champions of like other gods is such a cool idea.
yeah, put them in an arena
Fuck it.
or a fighting game.
He's already green. He's already green, and that's the best color.
It's not easy being green.
Now, I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments going like, that sounds really dumb. I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I understand. I'm coming from I love fantasy, like
No,
Warhammer
that's cool as
Fantasy.
fuck.
I
I
love
like
Age
it.
of Sigmar. I love that kind of shit. If the fucking Chaos gods can have their champions, why cannot the gods of Order have
There we
theirs?
go.
You know what I mean?
I'm into it. Like, give
I
me
think it's
more-
fucking cool.
Do you think the laughing god has like Conrad? Would that make sense?
The laughing god might be associated with Jagatai Khan.
Oh, it's because he's a con artist
No,
who does like
That's
tricks
his
like magic,
title.
like a comedian.
that's his title. He's the Khan.
And he probably has a tie, but it's like
No,
weird.
he
So it's like
doesn't.
jagged tie. He wore a
No.
crooked tie.
He's in the webway killing a bunch of Drukari. He's having the best time of his life.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Jagatai laughs while
He's
he's
got
like,
An Ariana Grande hairstyle. Oh, that. So he's like the laughing god. Okay, I see it. I see it.
he laughs while he fights
I thought you were
and
asking what
encourages
fuck.
his sons to do so to like intimidate the enemy.
Okay, are we talking like
We're talking All Might.
You're dumb?
Like,
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking like light.
it might be. Light
Just, like,
Yagami
crazy.
just going crazy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. He just encourages his dudes to laugh.
Okay, well, fair enough. I mean, it's
Rejoice in
good
the
for
glory of
you.
combat.
Yeah.
Jagatai could also be associated with Cain, but I doubt it.
No, I think that's a cool theory. I'm into it.
Yeah, the
I would
returning
read
Primarchs being champions of
content.
gods of order is such a cool idea in my head.
Yeah. It also, I feel like it kind of goes along with like what you're doing
my
in
head, in my
Total
opinion.
War, if that makes sense.
Kind
In
of.
that you're like kind of trying to get everybody, you're communing with various gods or like beings at times. Being like, please, can I get your favorite? Please, can I?
So it would be interesting because perhaps that would mean Vulkan comes back and he's like even bigger. Maybe.
I mean, we know
Maybe-
people can get planet sized.
Maybe he comes back and there's like a weird power vacuum because Gazkul is like, I'm the biggest green, blessed by Gork and Mork. And then Vulcan shows up and is like, nuh-uh,
Nuh-uh.
That'd be crazy.
Damn. That'd be crazy.
But yeah. Hey,
Oh.
you got any questions about Vulcan or his salamanders?
Are there any offshoot factions, how like that are fallen of the salamanders?
Oh, you mean like gene seed salamanders that have like fallen to chaos?
Yeah, or something like that.
Not at the top of my head.
I'm just curious
I
if they
can't
fell,
think
what
of
they'd be
any.
like.
Well, I can show you one loyalist successor chapter. These are the Black Dragons.
Right.
I mentioned
We've
them
talked
earlier.
about them before. Yeah.
Yeah, look at them.
Yeah, they're a lot.
So those are their actual bones.
Oh no. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't like that. Guy full on, that's like not just a dragon on his shoulder, that's Maleficent.
Yeah, pretty
Like-
much.
That's cool.
They're like crazy.
Fair.
This goes back to salamanders don't get a lot of attention by Games Workshop. They don't have a ton of successor chapters.
Right.
Most successor chapters, it's like if it's not an Ultramarine successor chapter, it's an Imperial Fist successor chapter. It's one of those deals.
Okay.
Salamanders, not that many.
Right.
But that should not discourage you from using them on tabletop or making your own successor chapter of the salamanders and just doing whatever you want.
Right.
Go for it. Though if you are going to play salamanders on the tabletop, you are encouraged to use as many flamethrowers as possible. They love fire. They love thunder hammers.
If
They
you
love being big and heavy.
play Vulcan
Okay.
and he goes down, can you just like bring him back?
A lot of the demon primarchs have this kind of mechanic. So does
Right.
Gilliman. Gilliman has like a second wind. Like basically his armor is like,
He just gets-
I'm back.
He locks in.
Yeah, he locks
When
in
he holds
for a
his
second.
breath for 45 minutes
Jesus.
just because he's so mad.
Oh, you're talking. You're not supposed to know about that yet.
No, I'm not, but I do.
It's funny. So I could definitely imagine Vulkan having some sort of, if he goes down, I don't know, roll 2d6, and if it's a 4 up on both dice, then he gets to come back.
Crazy.
No, Vulkan's cool. He's so
Yeah.
fucking awesome. Hey, where would you rate Vulkan in terms of your favorites? Because we've talked about Horus, Lehman, Ferris, Fulgrim. Now we're at
Yeah.
Vulkan.
I feel like number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah, I'm just like,
not numero uno.
I'm just really attached to my boys right now.
Oh,
And,
you're.
well, they're still fucking alive.
We gotta
And
look at the
okay.
list and add like a little like asterisk at the bottom that says subject to change.
For me, they're still sitting on it's that autumn day where they're sitting out on the stairs. It's good right now. It's good.
You just want them to be happy.
I just want them to be okay.
I think you're gonna feel that when we talk more about what happens to Vulkan and the heresy.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a slight hint.
Right.
Conrad basically he figures out that Vulkan has a respawn timer.
Right.
And well,
Decides to off him.
he decides to experiment a bit.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Our boy
ominous.
is gonna go through some bad shit.
Wait. Oh no.
Oh yeah.
The Conrad Kurs.
The Conrad Kurs.
It's bad, guys.
Where would you rate Conrad? Because we talked a bit about Conrad this time. Where do you rate Conrad on like the tier
Shoot
list?
him into the sun.
Get him out of here. I want him flung into the star.
Can we
I want
skip
him,
him?
gone. Oh, yeah,
Listen,
that's about
I don't want
right.
to take anything away from anybody. So, can we just give them all to Bricky and he just doesn't take them outside?
Give all the Night Lords to Bricky. Yeah.
I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, but that's acid rain, and I have very sensitive skin.
Again, a lot of people who played Night Lords are of the vibe of, yeah, I'm fucking evil.
I really hope that when they
Duh.
play, they role play a Transylvanian accent.
I am very evil. Number 3, huh? Okay. It makes sense. It makes sense.
It's not if I was gonna have lunch with anyone, I'd probably choose Vulkan.
Oh, Vulkan. Vulkan, absolutely.
I feel like I'm the most likely to come out of things.
My boy
alive.
can work a grill.
Or Canoe. But I also just feel like I'd have things to talk about with Canoe. We bond over organizing things.
I'm so excited for
and
Canoe,
being
for
napping.
Gilliman.
It's
Gilliman's
gonna be a 4-hour
insane.
episode.
4-hour episode, 2 hours
It's
of
gonna
which
be
you're just like, I like him. He's
It's gonna
so
be like
good.
when after 2 seasons, suddenly your anime gets a movie. And you're like, oh my God. But in terms of the stories I have enjoyed learning so far,
Mm-hmm.
I want there to be more of him.
Yeah,
But I currently haven't latched on.
you're exactly where I'm at. Where when I was doing this episode, I was like, how far do I go? Because I don't want to encroach upon anything that's during the heresy, because I want
Yeah.
to save that for big this is the Horus heresy videos,
Yeah. It's
but
my feeling is obviously I like him.
yeah, obviously I like him, but I just want more.
Yeah.
And now you're with every Salamander fan out there. I just want
Yeah.
more. I just
Yeah.
want more Sallys.
They're cool.
Sallys are great. They're cool. They're also not that hard to paint.
Yeah.
They're a pretty warm green. Just paint the pauldrons black, maybe add some gold if you want. You don't know what this means yet, but they are not codex compliant, which means that they basically don't have a standardized you put this marking here. So it encourages
Leandros is freaking out.
yeah, it's not breaking lore or anything, if that matters
Right.
to you, to have them fully customize their armor or use non-conventional weapons or
Okay.
it's basically kit bash, paint however you want. I see a lot of people to denote sergeants on Salamanders. They'll typically paint the helmets black,
Okay.
which I love that look. Oh, they also have black backpacks. I forgot to mention that. In 40k, they have
Okay.
black backpacks. In 30k, they don't, I think they don't. Let me check. Horus Heresy Salamanders. Let's find out. They do not. They have green backpack. So after the Fulgrim video, we had a bit of a discussion where you were like, ooh, I kind of want to make an Emperor's Children force where it's like based off Band of the Hawk. And there will be a Guts mini and a Griffith mini, and that'll be like Fulgrim, and then he'll have like the demon mode and all that stuff. Would you consider collecting and painting salamanders?
I already have.
Fuck.
I've got one right here.
Fuck, she's right.
Yeah.
Damn.
Again, I like defaulted to them because I was like, I know these guys are good. Like,
at the beginning, I was like, I wonder if your opinion will change, and like I knew like your opinion's not going to change. You're still going to like salamanders.
It's not great that he killed the child.
Well, of course not. But like, you know, sometimes good. Sometimes
if you ever find yourself about to kill a child,
Don't.
stop. Ask yourself, is this who I want to be? My poor, very warm boy. He's very
he is a very warm boy. He's very warm.
Someone get him a pool.
Do you think he is like a reptile in that maybe he's actually very cold all the time, and so he prefers being in warm places?
I look at him and the Goron village music starts playing.
He is quite Goron-ish, isn't he?
Dun, 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 dun,
He's very
dun.
big.
He's very good.
I really do love Vulkan, and we'll see this trend with a lot of the loyalist Primarchs. Spoiler, Vulkan is going to be one of the loyal ones. But there's this interesting conversation that a lot of them have sort of internally where they see everything that they're doing and they agree with the Emperor's end goal. The goal of, humanity will be all unified and it'll be great and there will be peace and prosperity throughout the galaxy.
Sure.
But the means to get there are bad.
Okay, so yeah, we've described in that encapsulation most good stories.
Yes.
But
I just I love the mentality of the Primarchs because they were literally made to do this job, right? But they still have enough free will to look at these awful things they're doing. Vulkan is looking at the xenocide, the alien genocide, the genocide of other humans who just said no to the Emperor. And he's just like, I don't feel good about this. I've been doing a lot of, I've been playing D&D on Saturdays. It's my first time playing D&D.
Yeah.
I've done some Pathfinder in the past, but I haven't really just sat down and done like a long-term D&D campaign outside of like maybe a one-shot like 5-6 years ago. Anyway, I've been doing a lot of reading on different creatures. It's one of those things that I never really got into. I was like, Dungeons and Dragons, it's that thing. And every so often I'd see like Art of a Monster and go, oh, that's cool. I've been doing a lot of reading on, well, the dragons.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the title. I'm going to look at what the hell is the lore of these dragons. I love dragons. Dragons are great. The Primarchs, especially Vulkan,
Right.
do remind me of the dragons, specifically the metallic ones. And the metallic ones, they're considered...
I mean, look at his hammer.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. But the metallic dragons, there's a difference between like... So the difference between metallic and chromatic, and there's a bunch of other variations of dragons. Basically, chromatics are generally considered aligned with evil. Metallics are generally considered aligned with good, whether that be chaotic, neutral, whatever.
Metallics, evil.
No, metallics, good.
Sorry.
Chromatics.
Chromatic. Okay, I'm not sure I understand the difference.
Chromatics are like red, green, blue.
Oh.
Metallics are like bronze, gold, silver.
Okay, I understand the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Easy going. But the idea is that despite them being aligned with that, so you could have like, let's take a bronze dragon. Now, bronze dragons, they're particularly involved with a lot of humanoid wars, and they have a very strong sense of justice. And so what often happens is these warring nations will approach a bronze dragon and they will appeal to the dragon going like, our cause is the morally correct or the more justified thing. And the dragon will determine what it personally determines is like the correct side and fight for that side.
If it was a different mythological creature, it might determine what was Phoenix right.
Damn. So the interesting thing is, despite them being good, using big air quotes there, they're still fucking dragons.
Well, I mean, like, the thing,
pissed
like,
off a dragon, it's going to kill you.
I think one of the lessons of life
yes.
is that like you can never understand other perspectives. You can never account for every perspective. You know, like people are having a very different experience from you all the time.
Yes.
And you're not aware of it. Even if you're the good guy in war,
You're still at war.
you're still going into war.
Yeah, and this is the exact thing with Vulkan, right?
Yeah. It's like there's obviously tragedy in it, and I think that it's often like portrayed in media with like some kind of a loss of innocence. I think Warhammer is very much about how everything is kind of gray.
Yes. The
color is kind of gone.
Yeah, the common thing to say to people when they're first getting into it is, who are the good guys? Well, there are no good guys. I think the main appeal for a lot of people getting into Salamanders is the fact that most of them are generally kind. They are good people in a galaxy that does not care.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of factions like that. Even in the most shitty Space Marine faction or Imperium or whatever the fuck, there are still good people.
Yeah.
And it is interesting seeing their perspective in this setting.
Would you argue technically Space Marines are human?
No, they are transhuman.
Yeah. But like technically.
Yeah. They are of human origin.
So Space Marines around them, they like understand their perspective. So like you could say that they consider them people because
depends on the Space Marine.
Yeah. But like I feel like in that example, salamanders consider humans people.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. They value them. And not just because like, oh, you're like more bodies or whatever. It's because no, this is the point.
Yeah, it's just like how you wouldn't want to see a person get hurt.
Yeah.
Because whether or not you know them or they're your prerogative or whatever, it's hard. Like, oh no, my fellow, a thinking, breathing, having an experienced person like me. What a terrible thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, could I prevent it?
And this is sort of the tragedy of Vulkan is that I don't think he can. No matter how hard these people try. And this is a recurring theme with a lot of the Primarchs is that despite all their gifts, they are not gods. They can't stop someone from dying. They can't save a colony that is about to be blown up. Maybe they can, maybe they can't.
Right.
But seeing them be tested like that is so... I love me drama. I love me some tragedies.
They are at the end of the day,
yum.
Even if technically not, but actually deep down, unfortunately, they're human.
Yes. And I would say...
And by that, I mean not divine.
I would say salamanders are by far the most in touch with their humanity for that reason.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why they're cool. They're a breath of fresh air in a galaxy that is uncaring.
On probably one of the least fresh-aired planets.
Yeah, there's a lot of radiation there. But there's cool salamanders.
No, like I would go
on a vacation.
Like if there was like a virtual reality experience to like go check out all like these planets.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'd have like a field day.
McCrag would be cool.
Or like in Disneyland with like Galaxy's Edge. And then you could get all the Primarch-based ears.
That'd be cute.
Because I've just got the cute little black ones with the red bow, but you could get like cute little salamander ears. Wait, guys, this is where the money is.
No.
We get the
GW?
we get the Disney adults into Warhammer.
GW, lock
Warhammer,
in.
Disney adults.
Lock in
Warhammer
now.
children.
Hey.
Bob Iger.
No. Ew, not him.
No, I don't like it. No, we trick him. Bob, don't listen to this part.
Yes.
We take all his money.
Yes! And we redistribute it to
Yeah, we're
to
like
all
Robin
society.
Oh! This is how we fix all the problems.
Exactly.
Hey.
It's men in tights, guys.
Hey.
Except it's me, a cis female, and my non-beanie boyfriend. Yeah.
Hey, I got bad news for you.
Why?
Firstly, what do you think the next Primarch is? Do you know?
Conrad?
No. Luckily not. Hey.
Hidalgo?
It's not Hidalgo.
No,
Stop
that's the
talking
horse.
about Hidalgo.
Wait. Oh, wait. Don't tell me. I know.
Mm-hmm.
Perturabo.
No.
Don't tell me. Rogaldorn.
Yep. Correct. The exact opposite of Perturabo.
Dorn.
Rogel Dorn. And I got
my
bad
fist.
news.
Why?
Conrad Kurs will be mentioned in that.
No! I dislike him very much.
Yes!
He's very greasy looking.
Yes!
There's a character in Letterkenny
Okay. Never seen it.
that I feel like is just like Conrad Kurs. He's like the weird gothic drug dealer.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah. But like, what if he also killed people for fun?
He might. He acts like
Okay.
it. Like, I think this might be casting gold.
But hey, you know who's after Rogel Dorn? Smiles?
Who's that? Good Canoe.
Yes.
Oh, good. I like him. I'm excited.
So you can, let's have a little bet, and you're not
What do you mean?
allowed to not try.
What do you mean?
Yo,
What does that mean?
wait. Let me finish talking. Wait. It sounds bad now, but it won't. I promise.
Yes, it does.
No, wait. Stop.
Come-
Okay.
Stop saying stop.
Stop. Wait. Okay. We need to make a bet. I think you will have a reaction that is close to crying. No, fuck it. You will cry during Gilliman's episode.
Is it just because I'm going to be excited because it's him and it's that he's really here for true now? Mr. Canoe, it's been so long.
Carrie saw Gilliman and was like, oh, cool. He's like blue. And I was like, yeah, Ultramarines are really cool. I really like them. I'm going to collect them. And Carrie was like, oh, okay. And then one day, I checked my phone and it was a message from my darling, my dearest, the love of my life, Carrie.
Right.
And I opened it and she said, is this real? And it was Gilliman smut. And I said, no, but maybe. If you want it to be, it can be real. So every so often, she just sends me Gilliman not safe for work with just something along the lines of, so when does this happen? Question mark.
Listen, he's been through a lot. There's
You
a lot
don't
on
even
his
know what he's
shoulders.
been through.
Well, I've seen some of the stuff he's taken.
Wait. Sorry, Rel. Everyone say
Everyone apologize
everyone
to our nice new editor.
Everyone say thank you, Rel, our new editor. Thank you, Rel.
Thank you, Rel.
Hey, I'm excited for Rogel Dorn. And then it's gonna be Gilliman, then Magnus, then I can't remember the one after that. Anyway, we're getting going. We're almost there. We're about halfway.
Wow, look at us.
Hooray!
Hurrah.
Hurrah. Hey,
Yeah.
that's an episode.
I think so.
Hey, everybody.
This episode felt like
Joy. Hey, everybody. If you made it this far, thank you so much. That really helps with our algorithm stuff. If you want to support us, head on over to our Patreon. Link in the description. That's numbskulls.com/Patreon. You can also support us by becoming a YouTube member and checking us out on things like Spotify and iTunes and other cool things. Check out our links in the description.
All those things.
Thanks so much for coming on by. Hope to see you again soon, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Oh,
Bye-bye, everybody.
guys. We'll see you later.
Go paint a salamander
Bye-bye.
today. What are some hobbies either of you have that the other does not share? You have crochet. I don't crochet.
That's more of a keep my hands busy kind of thing. But I mean,
Yeah, but it's
sewing
still-
maybe, because like I do also actually like I used to like cosplay a lot, so I used to not a lot, but I can sew. I can put together a garment.
I can't sew. We both paint, but I paint more often
Yeah.
out of the three of us.
Yeah. I do makeup.
You do makeup. I'm bad at I don't do makeup at all.
This is hard. Cause like a lot of the reasons why we like chose each other as our like people is because we share so much in common.
It's true. Oh, you have Nikki. I don't like Infinity Nikki, but you.
Yes, you do. You're always looking forward to it. Don't come for Nikki.
Yes, you do. If Vulkan invited you to a barbecue, what are you most looking forward to eating? I think...
The barbecue.
Well, yeah, obviously, but like, what meat? Ribs? Oh my... Salamander ribs? Like the big monster salamanders?
Right, it's just Monster Hunter, yeah.
Oh my god,
It's
you're
the one
so
village.
right! He would just make a giant Monster Hunter meal, you're so right!
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd eat that 100%. I would want to die afterward, but I would eat all of it.
That's why you eat some charred veggies as well.
That's true. You don't feel as bad.
Yeah.
The guilt doesn't carry over as much.
Yeah. I feel like Vulkan would brew like a his
Like
own
a spiced
beer.
rum.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too, but like...
Something that has like a lot of a kick to it, you know?
Oh, okay, then maybe I wouldn't do well, because I don't even like Fireball.
If the Marine Legion / chapters had little guys as mascots, animals, etc., what would they be? Well, salamanders, obviously.
Salamanders.
You got little salamander friends, little dragon friends.
Yeah.
Let's think about the ones that we've talked about.
Okay.
So, Horus, wolves.
As well as the next one. More wolves.
Oh my god, you're right.
Right? Why was that so
Oh my
hard?
god. Oh my god, they're both wolves. Wait,
it's
that
all
doesn't
wolves.
work.
It's Moon.
I guess, like, Horus is, like, normal-ish wolves, and then Lehman has the big Fenris wolves. Ferris.
I'm thinking about, like, the thingy fights.
Like the Necron centipede thing?
Yeah, because then I was like, okay, well, Fulgrim might have, like, a snake. Like, a cool, like, Kita.
Well, I think Ferris's Legion, the Iron Hands, would have, like, just little robot friends.
So they're like
just
Tau.
like kind of, but like I'm thinking more Nurgling-sized, or like what are the little
like
Star
droids.
Wars like? Yeah, like droids.
Droids.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
like little tiny mouse droids
What if,
and stuff.
wait, no, I've got it.
Okay.
So they cut off their hands,
Right.
and then they become like Fing in the Addams Family. So they've got a bunch of hands
No,
running around.
that's horrifying. Fulgrim.
A snake or like a leopard that he can like lounge with.
I see two routes here. I see very exotic animals, and I mean exotic like a jaguar that is like iridescent in
Like
its coat.
just a Persian. The Pokemon.
Yes. If we wanted to narrow down the animals, I think you could go either the snake route, but more realistically, I think they would go more of like the eagle.
Yeah, I was gonna
Really
say I
push the
also
Aquila.
get birds.
Mm-hmm. Really push the motif that they have with their logo and their entire aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
Is Vulkan awesome? Very important. Must answer.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Sigmar lied. He never told us the true cost of this honor. Soon, all that will remain of me is an echo, lost to the storm. But until that day, I fight.